everyone. Welcome to another DCU Daily. Today is a big show because not only do we have DCU Daily, but we also have Tier List Tuesday. Don't worry, we'll be getting into that soon enough. But first, let's cover everything going on in DCU Daily today because, of course, we have, upcoming box office projections we always like to talk about, even though it's not Friday yet. Still like to talk about those once in a while before Friday or after Monday. Then we have MCU Weekly. Some big news dropped in regards to Doomsday and what these teasers mean and if they are in fact teasers at all, which it seems like they might not be, but we'll get into it. And then of course a couple quick hits in regards to some planned films that never came to be for the Sony Spider-Verse that didn't include Spider-Man, as well as a couple things in regards to female-led superhero films, which, were not great, but, we'll be getting into that. And then, of course, Movie Talk Madness. We were going to be talking about Sinners and how it might break all the records in terms of the Oscar nominations. We'll see if it actually wins any, but that's the projection for right now, so take it with a grain of salt. And we have a couple trailers for you in regards to TV and film, as well as some announcements in regards to upcoming films. Then we have our quick hits and, of course, our DC quick hits when we get into DCU Daily. And then a couple things in regards to our boy Superman being eligible for Best Picture. Possible, maybe, kind of, sort of, not really. But, we'll talk about it anyway. And then, of course, a little bit of Batman Part 2 news. All of that and more after this wonderful little intro, so let's get us started.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
Robert
You're
Downey.
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see chorus.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the world needs now.
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Welcome to the news, everybody. We are here to talk about all kinds of movie-related news for you today. In addition to TV-related news, I'm your host, John. Lovely to see you all. I am not alone today. Here we have Dan back, ready. Are you ready, Dan? Are you ready to talk about news? Are you ready to talk about DC and everything in between?
Oh, I'm ready. I am so ready. I've spent all day talking about and recording some new shorts. We're trying new things on the channel, and there's a lot of Avengers Doomsday stuff to get into. There's some fun Oscars talk. Of course, Superman. I'm excited to talk about Sinners, potentially breaking records. Again, we're kind of looking ahead a little bit here, but as we get closer to the Oscars nominees being announced towards the end of this month, one's gotta wonder, will Sinners really have big presence, maybe even a record-breaking presence at the Oscars? So, and then, of course, John, we got to say hi to the folks live. We got D. Cole Enterprising. Yep. Monique is here. Monique, I had some wild Atlantic salmon that I baked with my own little mix of spices and with some lemon, juice. It was nice.
I have rice right now. I ate before, I had some pasta and chicken, but I was still hungry, so I got some rice. It's cheesy rice from a package.
That's nice.
It's actually good.
You know what? That hits. That's just that put me to sleep. We got Stacy in the chat though. Stacy.
I would have eaten cheese and crackers, but my parents ate all the fucking crackers, so
Yeah, dry rub salmon is good. It's good. As long as you don't overbake it, I'd made that mistake once or twice. Hey, Tony, you know what? Chocolate is also something
very
that can put you
difficult to make.
Sleep.
It can be really. It's annoying to grill too.
But
it's the end result's
you gotta
great,
get the right
but
temperature,
But oh god, it can be so annoying to make sometimes.
Yeah.
That's what I prefer.
Well,
Red meat. Anyway.
because the salmon that I had today is like has a reddish hue to it. I mean, as most salmon do, but this one in particular like felt a little different. It tasted great. I like the meatiness of this particular kind of salmon. But before we get too far down that rabbit hole, I'm sure we'll talk about food as the show goes on.
Speaking of meat,
emo nerd girl, hello.
we have to talk about 28 years later, the Bone Temple. That was.
Is there any meat at that Bone Temple? I mean, I guess.
I mean, zombies, meat, eating people. It works.
I was gonna go somewhere with that, but then I decided against it as the brain to mouth, filter kicked in.
Anyway,
Kevin is in the chat. Hello, Kevin.
28 years later is the next big movie in regards to, something that can compete with the almighty blue people. Now you have the almighty people with the funny accents. Yeah, let's go with that. And, them fighting against zombies. 20 years later, the Bone Temple, to scare off Avatar Fire and Ash from number one with a $20 million opening for the upcoming MLK weekend. And so possibly finally taking away its, one top spot for
I was going to say,
a while.
because, John, Avatar in 2009 and then Avatar The Way of Water both held the top spot at the box office for 7 weekends in a row. From their first weekend, included, so when they came out, that first weekend, they all of them have come out in the middle of December, the week before Christmas. And so the one in 2009, the original Avatar movie, was on top of the box office for 7 weekends in a row. And then The Way of Water,
I guess you could say
later,
they were the king of the world.
They were. Speaking of James Cameron, we will be doing a tier list Tuesday episode focused on his filmography later as a director, not as a producer, because then there's a lot more to cover that we don't. But anyway, the point is, both Avatar Way of Water and Avatar in 2009 were at the top of the box office for 7 weeks in a row. And the story here, I think, look, it's great that 28 years later with the Bone Temple, which is the highest profile Sony movie out of many indie movie, really smaller budget, lower budget indie movies that Sony's putting out at the first quarter of the year. But then the 28 years later, Bone Temple is their biggest one, relatively speaking, of course, until we get to Spider-Man in the summer. So it's great that they're going to get off to a 20 million plus start and a holiday weekend with MLK Day coming up on Monday. But John, like I mentioned, the previous 2 Avatar movies topped the box office for 7 weekends in a row before they finally dropped to either number 2 or 3 in their 8th weekend. Avatar, the Fire and Ash, just finished doing 4 weekends at the top of the box office. And it's already been dropping off faster than the previous 2 movies, both in terms of the total amount of money being made and then a percentage drop from the previous weekend. And now it looks like it's not even going to hold for 5 weeks at the top. So again, another indicator that Avatar Fire and Ash probably most likely will not make $2 billion at the box office. I actually have a short coming out on the channel talking about this in more detail later on. But I mean, John, your thoughts on this? I mean, both the idea that 28 years later kicks off. Again, the Bone Temple is, I guess you could say, a bit of a spin-off, not really a main line in those series of movies. It's I don't know if you want to call it a side quest, but spin-off, side, whatever you want to refer to it as. That's a good start for Sony. But then also, what do you think about Avatar? Again, just not even going to be 5 weekends at the top, unlike the previous 2, which did 7.
I think it's showcasing the decline of the Avatar franchise ever so steadily. I'm not saying it's a failure. Obviously, it's still fucking making. It's probably going to make at least 1.7 billion dollars.
I think 1.7 is the estimate right now.
That's 1.7, 1.8 is those are the highest number. I think it was 1.8 that I saw in terms of projections, but that might have been declining. I think the most recent one I saw was 1.7. You're right. I think it just goes to show now that we're actually steadily going to be getting Avatar movies. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see with Avatar 4 when we're going to be getting that. That maybe it's just, it was kind of like a cool niche thing, not niche thing, but a cool thing back in 2009. And then so many years later, the weight was oh my god, what are we gonna get next? And then we finally get that like over a decade later, and then now we only get this one about 3 years later, so it's not as special. It people still like it. People obviously are still going to, but it's like ever so steadily. Like you had like two. I don't know what the initial run of Avatar was because the 3 billion number is like the fucking 17 re-releases that it's gotten since then.
Yeah, well, I
But
mean, the original run, I believe, hit like 2.7, 2.8, and I'm not sure if that includes. Remember, they did a re-release with an extended cut the same year the movie came out, or was it? No, it wouldn't have been the same year. It was the year after, basically. But within a year of the original movie releasing, they released an extended version. So, like in fall of 2010, you could have gone to see a longer version that included more scenes from Earth, some of the stuff on that Pandora that they cut out of the actual movie, which I think in the end the actual movie flows better for it. But you know, suffice it to say, those two versions, basically the original version that released theatrically, and then that re-release that came within 12 months time, combined for like 2.7, 2.8, and then since then they re-released it a few times.
right.
And that's got. I don't know if it's crossed 3 billion yet though. It's
No,
not,
it hasn't. It's
it will
it's
get
at like
there.
2.9 blah
It
blah.
will
blah.
get there.
It's
But
like so close. But it's
yeah.
not I'm not saying it's a failure, and I'm not saying people hate the franchise now. I'm just saying it's, I think, like steadily declining, and now that we got like two movies relatively back to back, now it's like people are like, it's not as special as it was back in 2009 and when it came back. Now it's like, okay, we're gonna get this.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's not a failure. It's not a failure. It's just like,
no,
I
not
think
at all.
the cracks are beginning to show. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying, you know.
Yeah. Hey Steven, how are you doing?
But yeah, I'm excited
yeah.
that this will, that this is gonna, that the sequel is gonna, get somewhere. I Even though I didn't love 28 Years Later, I mean, I liked the third act. That was excellent. The rest of the movie's okay, but I think that this, I've heard that this is even better than the previous film. I mean, according to Rotten Tomatoes, it might be. So, I'm excited for that. I like Nia DaCosta as a director, and I do think that there is something special here. And the fact that there is more focus on Ray Fiennes, who is easily the best part of 28 Years Later, certainly says something. So there's that. But according to this, the Rotten Tomatoes score right now is at 97%, which is, it's fairly early. It's only 57 reviews. Um, with that, 28 Years Later is at 89, 28 Days Later is at 87, 28 Weeks Later is at 73. This is the most well-reviewed film of Nia DaCosta's career after the Marvels and the Candyman requel, as well as Hedda, which was in between this and Candyman. So I'm excited for that. I know horror isn't really your thing, but are you at the least bit curious about this, or you're like, nah, this ain't for me?
No, well, I mean, for me, the biggest thing about horror movies coming out this time of year is they don't have a high bar to clear to be profitable. And then, while I'm not the biggest fan of like you said, zombie movies, because I'm more of a hard sci-fi person, I think 28 Years Later is one of those franchises that sort of, while it's firmly entrenched within that subgenre of fantasy, it's still it manages to, when it's doing really well, provide great commentary that goes beyond just zombies eating people kind of thing. Like, it's not just a horror movie.
I mean, most zombie movies tend to do that.
They try. I mean, I'm saying, like, they try. Not every movie kind of gets that message across. By the way, Emo Nerd Girl, we'll talk about the Mad Hatter stuff later, so stick around for that. But look, it's good to see that the score is really high. And, well, look, they need to keep the winning streak going, because while 28 Years Later wasn't necessarily like a breakout hit at the box office, I think it got the momentum going for the franchise that had really been dead for a while. Enough so that they now have, another movie lined up to maybe finish out the mainline story. And then, of course, Ray Fiennes, probably one of the best actors in the world who doesn't have an Oscar yet, not to mention he is literally one of the best actors in the world. And whatever he does, whatever genre it is, whether he's playing, somebody who's working as with the Pope, or he's, somebody who's living in a dystopian zombie infested future, or he's Lord Voldemort, Ray Fiennes, or he's M in James Bond, which he might be coming back again for. Ray Fiennes just, he's as good of an actor and a chameleon of an actor as there ever has been, and I can't wait to see what he's able to do with a lot more screen time in this movie, because like you said, John, some of the best parts of the last one from 2025 for you were the parts of the movie where Ray Fiennes was in there, and to the point you felt like they were two different movies at times. So I can't wait to see what they do expanding it. Could be a bit of a trap, because sometimes a character works well when there's you see less of them in a very specific sequences where they basically function as a supporting role. But then when you make the story about them, can you expand that mythos, and can you really make it better? But I mean, Ray Fiennes is such a good actor. I'm like, even if they did a mediocre job of the story, he will elevate the material. So I'm gonna say, despite the fact that I may not see this in theaters while it's in first run, I might wait till it's, again, because it's not my go-to genre. I still have high hopes for it.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a good time, whether it's better or worse than the first one. I think that I think we're in for a good time, like at the very least, like whether it's as depth filled as other movies in the franchise, or what it was trying to do. Maybe it does things better. That's what I hope for. But I'm still excited for it, and I'm still happy to see it. So that's where you get me. It's like, okay, if it's I want to be proven wrong, prove me wrong. That's what I always say. Prove me wrong. I try not to go into movies expecting to hate them. So I see a lot of the greatness of the previous film, and I'm just like, I hope it gets all the great things get doubled down with this one. And a friend of mine, she went to go see it. She preferred the first one, not the first one, but like the third one, but the previous film. And she loved this one, but not quite as much. But she's like, it was very close. So I'm kind of riding on that, and because I don't really trust Rotten Tomatoes, I trust the people around me who to give me their opinions. So, but yeah, very exciting. It's nice to see. This will definitely be a big outlier in terms of January releases, because most January movies are hot garbo. So, either Sony had no faith in this, or they knew they had something and wanted to make more money at a point where there was nothing else coming out outside of the movie with a killer monkey and like indie movies that nobody knows about and don't get marketing. So maybe it's a smart move. We'll see.
I mean, this is the thing, though. Like you mentioned, they might have put it here because they know there's not a lot of competition. And like, if you think about it, 28 years later is a franchise that would struggle to outcompete a lot of the other bigger movies, even in like early to late spring months. I think right in this part of the year, at this time, again, and it's the MLK, it's a holiday weekend, MLK Day weekend. So you do get an extra day where people will be able to go see this thing. It's good positioning on the part of Sony. I just hope that it results in the movie making money, considering the reviews are good. Like that, it's got everything going for it. So hopefully all the pieces fit together. Unlike I feel like The Running Man last year was one of those movies where, like, obviously between the ownership change and everything else that happened, they completely screwed up the marketing campaign, and a movie that I thought was way better than it got at the box office, and ultimately probably won't be very well remembered. Sony's doing all the right things to position this movie to succeed, and so hopefully 28 years later, The Bone Temple which is a very long title, but like that's fine. Hopefully the movie will do really well at the box office because the critics love it, and I think the audiences will like it too. Because again, it's Ray Fiennes. Like Ray Fiennes does not miss. I can't think of a movie that Ray Fiennes was in the last time that it wasn't a good film. So, yeah, and yeah, I guess we'll be talking. I will be talking about it next week. So stick around. I'm sure we'll review it. So
Yes, very much so. But the next thing we have is going from artsy films to not so artsy films with
hey, you never
with
know, John. You never know because it's not out yet. It's not
No, I'm
prejudged.
just saying. Well, Marvel doesn't tend to make artsy movies, but that's okay. They're roller coasters. They're amusement parks,
Hey, Ron.
as the great Martin Scorsese would say.
I can't
So-
wait for the day where Martin Scorsese crosses into the dark side and actually joins the Marvel cinematic universe. Like that will be the day, full of just like Twitter, X, social media going wild
Yes.
and crazy with memes. I can't
But
wait for that day.
it's now official. The second to last fucking teaser. Although we're gonna be getting into that later. But teaser for now. Happy New Year. That we have the Fantastic Four meeting the Wakandans. Well, specifically, the Thing meeting M'Baku and Shuri.
King
and-
M'Baku.
Yes,
Is an amazing concept.
King M'Baku because he is the goat. But yeah, thoughts on this, Dan? I mean, we watched the fucking terrible, shitty version that was ripped from the French movie theater that Marvel claims that they didn't leak, but they are 100% leaking. What are your thoughts now that we see it in glorious HD on YouTube that isn't a potato on somebody's phone?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the original ones they felt like somebody had like put them to an AI filter at times. Like it was just too convenient that they were all being released literally like, on a schedule. But anyway, I actually watched this thing on YouTube several times now, and while I didn't get any more Easter eggs out of it, I was talking about it on that short I mentioned earlier that's on the channel. Keep hitting this. But look, it's hard to tell if this is meant to be the void that they're in, like, where this whole thing takes place, or if this is meant to be, where Telecon is, because like where you see those characters, it's almost like somebody removed all the water from the ocean and now it's a desert. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. Again, I mean, these feel like vignettes, and much like the ones before it, there's now the 4 of them, and I guess this would be a good time to transition to talking about the fact that not only did they put this up on the Marvel Entertainment YouTube channel, hello Movie Spud, but they being Marvel put up this Avengers Doomsday countdown clock, which of course has been at the
Sir
end of
President
every
Christopher
teaser.
Nolan is the blueprint. There, I said it.
Well, as I was saying, but the point being, like, that countdown clock has been at the end of every single teaser, and then given that the teasers came out a week apart, like the countdown clock was slightly different because it was counting from when the teaser dropped to when the movie's coming out. And now they've got this live stream going, John, this live stream that will probably break some Guinness World Record because from the sounds of it, from the looks of it, this thing will go on till the movie comes out in December, and it's certainly going to be a lot longer than the whole casting announcement with all the director's chairs last year. But did you get a chance to watch it? Because there's not really much
I didn't
there.
get a chance to see it. I didn't realize until now, like, that it was there. So, I
It
just
says
remember.
Doomsday is coming, and it's got the time, and it's got the tick-tock. Like, if you don't have a clock in your house and you do have a TV, I have clocks and TVs, but like, and you just want to see the time and, like, I don't know, do the math on the countdown. Like, if your time is entirely dictated by when the movie comes out, then throw this on as a wallpaper.
Yeah, I think I do think that this is definitely going to be a fun time for people, even if just like a quick little niche thing. But still, I remember when this was done for Oppenheimer, when Universal had that countdown where it played the teaser, and then every time the teaser played, the clock would change. I don't know how the fuck they did that. Like, that was insane.
Mhm.
So, that was certainly something. But yeah, so I think that was definitely pretty cool. And I'm sure this will be fun as well. So yeah, way to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems like this is part of that viral marketing campaign that they've been doing where, again, this is a theory, but I do feel
Yep.
like Marvel were the one leaking the teasers and then ultimately, giving us the actual thing the week after. But I mean, it's certainly got a lot of, I bet you it got more people going to see Avatar Fire and Ash in the theater. But having said all that, I mean, this started with the whole live stream chair watch with, all the cast members and stuff, where you just sat there for hours with just names on chairs, only to just see Robert Downey Jr. at the end come and shush you for a second. And then all the teasers, which we'll talk about a little bit more because that's where we're getting to. We're going to get to the whole Doomsday teasers are not actually teasers that the Russo brothers just talked about. But this is, I feel like, that next logical step. Like, there will be something like this stream on YouTube will be going till the movie comes out. I do wonder, though, whenever we do get the new trailer, like whatever the next trailer is going to be, like if it's going to pop up on this live stream and then people can, like, I don't know, 6 months later scroll back as like a little thing of like, oh, remember that's the exact time Marvel dropped the first trailer for the movie. That's the first time we got to see Doctor Doom. Because, John, there were like these ideas or these reports that Loki might get a dedicated teaser, that Doctor Doom might get his own dedicated one. He
The
might get
new
one featuring
Avengers, Sam Wilson's
the different
Avengers.
teams of Avengers. None of that has happened. So I guess I would say that since we got this up and running now, that's it. That's all the teasers that we're gonna get. We got 4 of them. Avatar is not gonna be at #1 at the box office this upcoming weekend. We talked about that earlier. So it makes sense that now they kind of are gonna be a little bit more low key for a couple of weeks, for 2 or 3 weeks, and then the Super Bowl rolls around, and I'd imagine that the Super Bowl is when we get an actual proper teaser trailer, because according to the Russos, John, apparently these teasers aren't even teasers at all. They're not teasers, they're not trailers, because they posted the 4th one today on their socials, and then they gave us some clues. Hell, they called these teasers clues. They said they are not teasers or trailers, they're clues. And then they signed off with, I think it said hashtag Doom is coming. If you scroll down in this article, it talks about, it mentions exactly what the Russo brothers said, but our Doomsday has begun. That's what they said. They said, what you've been watching for the last 4 weeks are not teasers or trailers. They are stories. They are clues. Pay attention. Hashtag Doomsday has begun.
Imagine they're just bullshitting and they're just having to be like, oh yeah, nerds, you fucking look at this while you don't notice us doing shit in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's take this because, again, the Russo brothers are the directors of this movie. They're working with one of the same writers that they work with in pretty much every other MCU movie they have directed over the years. Kevin Feige and them have, got a long history now collaborating. So I'm like, they are the authoritative source on what this movie is going to be. As the directors, you got to take what they're saying at face value. Because, I mean, I don't think they've been known to kind of like mislead us that badly. I mean, yes, they were the ones who I'm sure had some part in giving us that shot of the Hulk in the Infinity War trailer that was not even in the actual movie. But like Marvel as a whole has been known to do that. But for the time being, John, I want to get your opinion on this. Hello, Gribble Fuentes. But John, what do you think the Russos mean by when they say these are stories? These are clues, pay attention, Doomsday has begun. Because what's the theme here? What are the clues? What are we meant to decode? Is this a puzzle that we're meant to be able to solve with just these 4 pieces of information, if you want to call them that, right now, these 4 clues? Or is this going to take more clues for us to figure out what's actually coming at our way in December, essentially?
I have no fucking clue. And honestly, I kind of just don't fucking care. I just, it's whatever. It's fine.
I mean, well, the one thing I will say is there's a theme of legacy. I mean, the first 2 with Steve Rogers and then with Thor, you were like, oh yeah, they both have kids now. They're both fathers. I keep seeing how online people are like, it's kind of crazy how, you know, Tony Stark was a father before he passed away in the MCU. So he's got a child. That's his legacy. I think they even talk about that in Avengers Endgame. And then, you know, pretty much every OG Avenger minus Black Widow, who's all, you know, now dead and couldn't have kids anyway, which is unfortunate, was unfortunate canonically. But as outside of that, I mean, the Hulk, like Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, has a kid from from She-Hulk that we remember seeing for a moment. And am I missing anybody? Yeah, Hawkeye's got a whole family of kids. So there's definitely, but like I think we were taking it maybe too literally, the idea that this is all about parentage and like kids. I think it's more about legacy, because how do you connect those two Avengers focused ones, like the OG Avengers focused teasers, with the X-Men, the Fox X-Men teasers, and then the Wakandan ones? Because if there is a theme, and this is, you know, Dan's little theory time, Steve Rogers teaser was not just about him having a child. It was about him basically looking literally in the trailer at his legacy, because that son that he has is now the, you know, like as parents, you're like, our legacy are our kids. Your kids become your entire life, right? Like that's what they say about when you become parents. And then of course Thor, even though, you know, it's not really his own child in the strictest sense, but like he adopted Love. The end of the movie, once Christian Bale's character, I forget his name of the character, but anyway, the point is, like, you know, Thor's got a daughter, and like the way he's praying to Odin, it's like, this is my legacy. He's talking about that. And then when you go to the Fox X-Men one, now we're not talking about kids in a sense. I mean, although you could say Magneto and Charles Xavier, like, you could say that Cyclops is their legacy in a manner of speaking, you know, like in terms of who's who and where all the pieces land there. But, you know, in a more abstract sense, the Fox X-Men are the legacy of Marvel in many ways. Like if you, and again, this is a little more abstract. And again, I'm just trying to figure out like what may be going on here. But like between those two Avengers focused teasers, then the Fox X-Men basically serving as Marvel's legacy as a whole, which I'm sure will be addressed in Doomsday and Secret Wars, because this is meant to sort of like bring all those different disparate timelines and everything together. And then with the latest one, the one that they put out today, that was been, you know, on the internet for the last week, you hear Shuri talking about, you know, the King of Wakanda has a responsibility to his people, Talokans and stuff, you know, and then she talks about like, and I, you know, as the Panther, and then of course Fantastic Four, we have already talked about, like, you know, they've got Franklin Richards there, like the baby Franklin Richards. So there's this whole idea of legacy, I feel like, across the board. Like Shuri, like the Wakanda Forever was all about legacy, you know, the idea. So I think if you go off of like one theme across these four teasers, and if we are to look at them as clues, as not as teasers, as stories, then yeah, I mean, pay attention. These are all about, these are all about legacy. And I mean, in many ways, what we're getting from Avengers Doomsday, I think the story, yes, it's all, you could call it nostalgia bait, but maybe if they land the plane properly, per se, maybe they will make the movie more about Marvel's legacy. And then, you know, where do we go from here moving forward? And like Infinity War, you kind of hit a nadir at the end of the movie, and then, you know, you fight your way out of it during Avengers Secret Wars, like they did in Endgame. So that's my theory, John. I don't know what you got to say to that. I'll let you kind of
I don't know. It
take
sounds
the
good to
stage
me.
for a moment. Yeah.
that sounds good to me. I like that.
Cool. We'll go with that then. You guys let us know in the comments what you think about that idea.
Yeah. So now we have a couple MCU quick hits that we'll be discussing really quick. Hence the name. So first things first, the character that in the MCU that nobody likes. Will She-Hulk be recast? Speculation mounts about Tatiana Maslany's future as Jennifer Walters. It's kind of a shame that this character, who was so fucking legendary in the comics, is now among one of the most hated MCU additions of all time, and just such blatant disrespect to such a great comic book character. And Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Tatiana Maslany was like, I tried the Marvel thing, I don't want to do it anymore, and she gets out of her contract because it seems like she's being Oz Perkins' muse right now after being in his last two movies and kind of just wants to focus on smaller independent productions. She's like, I tried the MCU thing, I'm done, I'm out. I could see that. But I mean, you can get anybody, just get anybody in a mocap suit and kind of tweak the, it would be an ongoing tradition of, an actor playing a Hulk character and then after one appearance in one project gets immediately recast. I'm just saying it's the tradition, so I wouldn't put it past them if they, kind of just Maslany went off in her direction and the MCU went off in theirs. Maybe she'll stick to TV. Maybe she won't come up again. Who knows? But it's um you know what I do think She-Hulk does deserve to be redeemed. I don't think she's going to show up in Doomsday or Secret Wars, but I would like to see this character redeemed because the blatant disrespect to the character that was done in Attorney at Law was just absolutely terrible. And I think she deserves better, and I would hope she gets redeemed in the future. So, but I would like to keep some
Well,
core aspects of that character, but like, have it properly move on. So, but I don't know, but that's just me.
uh, look, I'll just add to what you were saying. I think that by and large, for me personally, the She-Hulk show was very uneven. Like, it was funny at times. I thought the CGI looked really good at times. There were other times the CGI looked bad. Some of the jokes didn't land with me, but maybe, I wasn't a target audience, but also some of the jokes were just bad. It was just a very mixed bag of, storytelling. There were a lot of questionable choices. I think Tatiana Maslany did a great job. She's an amazing actor. She did a fantastic job playing She-Hulk, and I think a lot of people like had these very superficial opinions on the show because
Yeah.
they just simply didn't understand the character of She-Hulk and the way she is in the comics. So that
Yeah.
aside, I think this whole story here has a lot more to do with, and again, this is speculation. This isn't coming from an official source. This isn't, like being reported by Marvel. But essentially, Tatiana Maslany, remember, John, I think you mentioned her too. She was very vocal about the whole Jimmy Fallon controversy, asking people to cancel their Disney Plus subscriptions. She's also been very vocal about, what's going on in Palestine and Israel, just she's not been somebody who, from a corporate perspective, would be like, very much in like, towing the company line, as it were. And so really the speculation here is, and if you scroll back to the top, I mean, it's kind of summarized in the headline, and a very well put together headline at that. It's kind of likely that we don't get to see her back because it may not even be a matter of that Marvel doesn't want to have She-Hulk come back. It might be more that Tatiana Maslany does not want to come back to play She-Hulk because she's just doesn't, like you said, John, earlier, she's got plenty of other projects coming her way as is. She's a great actress. She's not, like somebody who's gotten canceled or gotten herself canceled, and she's not short for opportunities. And of course, you got to wonder then from Marvel's side as well. You bring her back, something happens, and then Disney as a company takes a position on some world events, and then all of a sudden, if Tatiana Maslany is like openly talking about it and taking a very strong stance, let's say against Disney online like she was last year, again, I'm not passing judgment either way. I'm just saying from a PR standpoint, that would take away from promoting the movie itself. Like we've talked about it in the past, like The Flash had that huge problem with Ezra Miller's issues, and then we've seen like how like Johnny Depp with the Fantastic Beasts when they recast him. There are plenty of other examples like that. And again, in this case, I don't think it would be because Tatiana Maslany would be like somebody who's creating controversy because she's a bad person. I just think like she's very outspoken in her views, and she has a right to be. And ultimately, if Disney decides to go in a different direction, that's fine. Whether maybe they don't even use She-Hulk all that much. Hello, Brogu, by the way. And then also, hello, Hunter Iggy. We'll talk about your comment in a little bit. But John, do you kind of feel like it's gonna happen where Marvel just either decides, look, we don't really need She-Hulk in these Avengers movies, so maybe we'll just hold on to the character and use her in other things down the road, and so we don't have to worry about recasting at all? Or do you think they do want to bring She-Hulk in, but then they go with a different actor instead? I mean, there's also the option that they do bring
I
Tatiana
can see
back,
them.
but, you know,
Yeah. No, Brogu, don't leave. It's okay. Here. Bam. There you go. Not on the screen anymore.
It's okay.
But I think personally, I could see She-Hulk making a return. It's just maybe, as somebody said, in a Fantastic Four sequel, I could see that happen. Because she's very connected to the Fantastic Four in the comics. Possibly in just a smaller supporting character in something else. So yeah, that's all I think.
Yeah. And then to answer the question that Hunter Iggy had, just gonna bring this up quickly. What if Tatiana Maslany went to the DCU? What character do you see her as? Did we put her in one of our Fancast Friday episodes?
I don't think so.
Maybe we should make that an option. You know what? I'm going to be putting up a poll for Fancast Friday for this week's Fancast Friday soon. So maybe that will be an option. Tell you what, Hunter, if you want to make that an episode of the Fancast Friday, Tatiana Maslany reverse casting in the DCU, you can vote for it in a few minutes time. But anyway, let's keep on rolling here. We got other MC quickies to get into.
Speaking of terrible movies,
by the way, hello Fiona, and Megan Thee Stallion could come back. I have mixed opinions about the one scene she did have with the whole twerking with She-Hulk. It was hilarious. I just thought it was misplaced in the series. I feel
like the way it was it could have been executed better, because I see what they were doing with that. They were trying to do like a modernization of the famous jump rope scene in the comics. Where it was like, it's making fun of all like the fucking gooning douchebags that only read like female comics to fucking jerk off and, you know, objectify them. So they were like getting a one up on them. But the way it was executed in like the show, it was just like, hey, we're twerking for twerking's sake. And I'm like, that doesn't really have much of a I guess that's like part of the joke. It doesn't have a point, much like the wackiness of She-Hulk as a character. So, you know, but like, it's neither here nor there. I don't think people needed to fucking lose their like complete and utter shit over it, but I think it could have been executed a little bit better with what they were trying to do. But anyway, you know, I just think people just exactly, like people were just like being like, oh my god, how dare she twerks, and it's just like, guys, come on, really.
There's always more nuance to things like that in terms of the reactions across the board, you know.
But anyway, so apparently Black Cat was gonna get a terrible movie from Sony. Wow, let's all be shocked together, guys, because woof. But anyway, so some Black Cat details have been revealed by ex-user Nerd Tower YouTube, who claims to have seen storyboards from the movie when it was in production in 2021. Spill some gossip. In 2021, there was a Black Cat movie in production. I saw storyboards, and in a specific sequence, she was dressed as a goth at a costume party, cries in the bathroom, smears her makeup, and makes the mask. Bam! Black Cat ready for action. It was awful. Not gonna lie, take this with a grain of salt, but I totally believe that Sony would fucking like almost green light something as dog shit as that. So, you know, yeah. So, in terms of, yeah, they did want to use Felicia Hardy in future films, because Felicity Jones did play Felicia Hardy in Amazing Spider-Man 2. They were going to spin her off. Didn't happen. But you know, shame, because Felicity Jones is a great actress. And then somebody, Prince Blythewood, because there was also a Silver Sable and Black Cat movie that never happened, that was put on the shelf indefinitely. But the person, I guess, in charge of that movie, they said they wanted to go edgier than some of the Marvel films. It was a question of how far could I push it in that Marvel universe. Silver and Black put me in the conversation. I was one of those couple of women people go to for these big films. I knew what kind of movies Skydance make. It was exhilarating and nerve-wracking. I knew I loved this project partly because I could do everything I wanted to do from the other film, an edgy superhero film with two women, which is like out of all the, it's so weird. Out of all the movies that were being made, Black Cat made the most sense. A Silver Sable and Black Cat movie actually made sense. It makes more sense than like Morbius or Madam Web. Like, at least Black Cat could handle her own movie. Silver Sable, maybe not as much, but like those characters can handle their own movie. So the fact that they didn't go with those and then almost went with El Muerto before then is just crazy to me. But if this is what we were getting, then maybe it was right that it never happened. But
Well, I mean, look, are you surprised considering how badly they fumbled pretty much every step of the way with the Sony Universal Marvel character movies? Because, I mean, this comes on the back of the revealed and the rumor out there, I don't know if it's confirmed, the idea that Sony is now more open to sharing
it says
their
in this article,
Spider-Man characters with Marvel, like basically allowing Marvel Studios to use more of those characters that they previously held off on. Hello, Charlie, how you doing? But yeah, so I'm not surprised to see that they scrapped this, because look, even if this idea had some potential, which I don't know how much it did, given how they executed on movies like Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter, they would have hired some inexperienced people to work on it, and maybe ruined a couple of actors' careers along the way, or certainly put them in a downward spiral for a while, miscast somebody in the role, and try to make a movie that feels like it's something like that a superhero movie would look like in the late 90s, early 2000s, where it's almost afraid to be a superhero movie, and yet somehow it has low-key some of the best scenes, like action sequences, but yet overall the movie's terrible, and then in just all-around B-movie there's this whole conspiracy idea that Sony was making these movies just because they wanted to keep the rights, and maybe that was part of it. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure them sharing Spider-Man with the Marvel Studios and Sony still distributing those movies with Tom Holland and stuff, that still counts as part of their rights agreement. So like their rights agreement wouldn't have lapsed. Like they would still retain the rights in that sense. So, but that said, I mean, those movies, believe it or not, when you put all the numbers together, like overall they made money. Somehow they were as a whole profitable. I mean, most of them lost money, but maybe just by the Venom movies by themselves, they kind of like pulled up the average that much. But yeah, I'm not surprised to see like how bad of an idea this Black Cat movie and Silver Sable thing would have been. Obviously, we got some of those. Didn't we get like Black Cat? What was the Sydney Sweeney character in Madam Web? Was that which version
she
of?
was.
I thought yeah.
She was one of the Spider Women. Like there have been multiple Spider Women.
Okay.
I know there was an Anya one. There was a Sabrina or like Sabrina something, and then there was another one. I like pretty much nothing characters nobody cares about that barely make any money. So it's whatever. Just kind of forget. Julia Cornwall, who's known as Julia Carpenter in the comics, that was Sydney Sweeney's character. Then Isabella Merced, who now plays Hawkgirl, she played Anya Corazon, and then one more character, Maddie Franklin, was Celeste O'Connor's character. So yeah, those are the three Spider Women that have gone, who have had different names in the comics. So yeah, I believe Julia Carpenter was the second Spider-Woman, and then I don't know what the other characters were, but yeah, that essentially they all played like various like Spider Women in the comics, and nobody really cares about them. But that's like, guys, like out of all the people to make Spider Woman, why not make a Silk movie? Why not make a fucking Julia Drew movie? I don't know. It's just whatever. It's fine. Whatever.
Yep. And we can move on from this quick. because it's
And
fine.
again, another wow, bad female-driven movies. Dan, what are you trying to say here? Anyway,
What am I trying?
but
Okay.
Nia DaCosta, who directed the upcoming 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, was talking about her disastrous last peek into the big blockbuster fandom, and she just tried her best, guys. Which, yeah, she was like a higher job. She's like, all right, they're like, all right, come on, we've seen good work in the past. You fucking do whatever you want. Just this is gonna be shit either way. So just whatever, do whatever the hell you want and try. And that's essentially what she did.
Yeah, and when she's got a few quotes in here, she was talking about how she visited the set of the new Avengers movies, and she loves to see that a bunch of the people that she worked with on the Marvels are working on the Avengers movies, and the relationships are great. Like there were no bridges were burned, despite the fact that the movie lost Marvel over $200 million reportedly, but like still. I think she was pretty conciliatory in her tone, the way she talked about it. Nia DaCosta said, like, look, we all tried our best. We tried to. Everyone was trying to make a great film, and you know what? It's hard to make a good film. It's honestly, especially at these levels, but like when you got like so many stakeholders and so many cooks in the kitchen, whether it's Kevin Feige and his writers' room being like, we can do this, you can't do that. Here's your little playground. Oh, and by the way, maybe we should go and tinker with this stuff. Yeah, we have like the days of additional photography or reshoots already kind of set aside. Maybe we should go reshoot that sequence. Or like there's maybe now we want to throw in the X-Men post-credit sequence. Maybe we want to change up what we show and not show about the real past of the relationship between Valkyrie and Captain Marvel, or like there's a lot of little pieces here and there. And look, ultimately, I don't think any of those little things or the way Marvel does their film production was the reason why this movie failed. John, we've talked about this before. And again, I don't even think this was something Nia DaCosta could have really, changed, because I don't think she came up with the idea to put these three characters together. It was like she was a director for hire. She came and did the best she could, like she said to here. But ultimately, with this movie, the problem was they had, of course, one character that had a billion-dollar movie, Captain Marvel, that came out in the Infinity Saga. And then they so at the peak of between two Avengers movies, no less, so like had the best possible positioning to do well, and it was also a decent movie. It was a middle of the road Marvel movie. Would I have pegged it to be a billion-dollar movie? Maybe not. It's certainly they mismarketed it a little bit in terms of its importance towards Avengers Endgame, but nonetheless, that's besides the point. But that character was known to enough people who made it a billion-dollar movie, who went to see the film in theaters. But then I don't even remember the other characters. Like, was it Photon? Is the other one the one of the characters? Of course, I know Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
I love her show. But like Photon she didn't even have her own show. She was in WandaVision. And like half the people probably didn't even realize she was supposed to be a superhero by the end of it. Or the fact that she was the daughter of Carol Danvers' best friend from back in the day. Like it's all of those things probably went over a lot of people's heads who weren't doing their Marvel homework. And then of course, while Miss Marvel was a good show, an amazing show, I think I'm biased about it, but it didn't get very good ratings because not a lot of people saw it. It was on Disney Plus, and in general, just that means you're gonna have fewer people watching it because you're essentially putting it behind the kind of paywall that's different than going to a movie theater. You go to a movie, more people go to watch movies in a movie theater. Like for example, a lot more people saw Superman than they did Peacemaker season 2. A lot more people saw Captain Marvel than they saw Miss Marvel. One was a Disney Plus show, one was a movie in theaters that the MCU put out. So all of that combined, I think, was really the big problem. You had two characters that most people didn't know really existed or what they were all about or what their history was or how they all connect together. And then you had one character that they knew, but also from a movie that was, somewhat forgettable and yet, was one of the big movies of Phase 3 of Marvel. All of that combined, it's the whole thing of I think it was where maybe Kevin Feige realized, like, I think they're asking the fans to do way too much homework to watch these movies, which is something they wouldn't do in phases 1, 2, and 3, or certainly not to that extent. So they've obviously corrected that course, but yeah, too late for the Marvels. And I feel bad for Nia DaCosta because I don't think was at fault. Like, she did the best she could, and I'm sure everybody else on the movie, like she talked about, did the best that they could. And moving forward, I mean, she's got The Bone Temple coming up, which is getting great reviews. She did Candyman. She did Hedda, is it? The one with what's her Tessa Thompson. Valkyrie. That movie is been getting some awards attention. So I think all around we're gonna see some great work already have and will continue to from Nia DaCosta. The Marvels was more a Marvel problem and less a Nia DaCosta problem. But anywho, I digress. Let's move
Yes. Let us move on. We have next is Movie Talk Madness, and we're gonna divert majorly from Marvels to something very much not Marvels with the Oscars. So predictions for the Oscars is that Sinners could definitely shatter the all-time nomination record, as well as international films hoping for recognition at the grand ceremony. So what is this, Dan? Why don't you give us a whole read through
Okay.
on why
So
this is maybe important?
yeah, so basically this article in Variety is like an early preview of the Oscars, right? They're making some predictions, and I'll go through the article in a second. I just want to set the table first. So of course when we're doing this show live, a couple of weeks away from January 27th, when they will announce the nominees, the official nominees for the Oscars. The Oscars, of course, the main event of the award season. We have sort of kicked off the award season, but we aren't quite there yet because we've got the Golden Globes that happened recently, the Actors Awards, the DGA Awards, the PGA, all the union awards will be happening soon. You got the BAFTA shortlist out, or the long list as they call them. So all these other awards will happen over the course of the next few weeks, but the Oscars are the big one. Now, as far as the Oscars go, there's a record that's shared by 3 movies, if I remember correctly. Let me see if I can pull this information up so I'm not misquoting it. But the Oscars have a record, and the record I'm talking about is the one that I think Sinners could shatter, according to this prediction from Variety, which, they could get completely wrong. And even if they do shatter the record, doesn't necessarily mean they'll walk away with a record-shattering number of awards. But hear me out. Titanic co-holds the record with La La Land and All About Eve for the most Oscar nominations of all time. 14 is the magic number. That's the highest number of Oscar nominations any movie has ever gotten. Titanic, La La Land, and All About Eve each got 14 nominations for the Oscars. The record for most Oscar wins, I'm pretty sure, is Lord of the Rings. Oh no, it's tied. Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, Titanic, and Ben-Hur, the 1959 Ben-Hur, all share the record for the most Oscars won. That's 11. So remember these two numbers. 14 is the record, which is shared by Titanic is the only theme across the two of them. And again, this is James Cameron kind of a day. We have Tier List Tuesday coming up later, talking about ranking James Cameron movies. And of course, he's got Avatar in theaters right now. Titanic co-holds the record for the most wins. Sorry, the most wins, 11 wins. It also co-holds the record for the most nominations, 14. Now, the reason why that's important and significant is because Variety is predicting that this year, the way it's shaping up, Sinners is currently projected by Variety to land 15 Oscar nominations. 15 would be, of course, the new record. Not sharing the record with Titanic, All About Eve, and La La Land, it would be the new record outright. And not only that, but there's a chance they could get even more. There's a couple of close categories right now where the Variety's experts who do this pretty much every year and follow movies all around and probably have seen more movies than any of us have seen in the past year. So then basically they know what they're talking about. And according to their statistical analysis, there's a few categories where if things go the right way and if the balance tips in one direction that favors the Sinners category nomination, then they could get even more than 15, which would not only be the new record, but below the old record out of the water of 14 that I just mentioned, that of course, like I said, Titanic, La La Land, and All About Eve have. That being said, I think Wicked last year had 13 nominees, and they walked away with like less than half a dozen trophies. So a lot of times, it's not a guarantee that just because you have the nominations that you actually end up winning all those awards. It's kind of rare. Like I talked about, All About Eve, Titanic, and La La Land all co-hold the record for the most nominations at 14. Only Titanic of those three movies actually, co-owns the record for the most wins with 11. Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King also got 11 with fewer than 14 nominees. So like their record was pretty much spotless. And then Ben-Hur in 1959, which is a whole different, era of Hollywood. So can Sinners do this? Now, John, basically, the point I've been trying to make is the projections currently say Sinners might break the record for the most nominations. But the question becomes, will potentially 15 or more nominations, which would be a new record at the Oscars for Sinners, which I assume would include, Ryan Coogler getting nominated for screenplay, director, obviously Best Picture, Michael B. Jordan for Best Actor, all the big actor categories, supporting actor, lead actress, as well as, you got VFX, you got cinematography, you got, sound editing, original songs, of course, the score, which we know Ludwig Göransson already won the Golden Globe for that. Do you think that if Sinners were to get like a record-breaking 15 or more nominations at the Oscars this year, which we will find out in pretty much almost 2 weeks from today on January 27th, do you think that will put, and again, this is an assumption, like do you think they're capable of breaking that record of nominations? And then B, do you think they can convert those record-breaking number of nominations into, incredible haul of Oscar trophies at the end of the night? Because Wicked last year had 13 nominations, and it had a less than 50%, batting average in terms of the total number of actual Oscars that they took home. So your thoughts on this, like the idea that Sinners could break a lot of records, or maybe not? Where do you land on this idea?
I don't think it's gonna break the number of all-time nomination records. It maybe, but I don't think it will. And then on top of the fact, I think it'll come home with maybe 2 or 3 technical awards, but then nothing else, because it's a horror movie, and Academy Awards hate horror movies, and they also hate black people. So a black person horror movie, wow, yeah, that's definitely.
Well, I
not
mean,
gonna
the
be winning
Academy is
anything.
more diversified than it used to be.
They say so. They say so.
And they also have a greater international presence, which is why, when you see like the Actors Awards, which are basically the SAG Awards, and the DG and the PGA, a lot of them have snubbed the international movies. In recent years, when those international movies don't get a lot of love at these other award shows, the Oscars usually, have a disproportionately large representation relative to those other award shows of those international, like, non-English language movies. So that's how like Parasite, won that as much as it did the year that it did, and that's not even the only example.
There it is. Sinners is going to win Jack and shit, and Jack left town. So here we are.
No, okay. So is that your take, John? Like, how, if you were to kind of ballpark,
do I want it to win? Absolutely. Yeah. I want it to win every fucking award, but it's not going to, because the two things I said before. They hate horror movies. Like, remember when we thought Demi Moore was going to win for Best Actress for The Substance? And then, literally, thus proving the whole point of The Substance by letting a young, hot actress win instead? Like, congratulations. You just proved this movie's point. And Demi Moore got fucking gypped because, Butterface McGee over here had played a sex worker. Ooh, okay. Yeah, sure. Get out of here. It's just,
fair enough.
It's just like, I just see the writing on the wall. I just see like, okay, yeah. Do I want it to win? Yes. Should it win? Probably. Is it going to? No.
I mean, in my mind, I feel like Best Picture, it has a good shot at it. It has a better shot at it than it does at some of the other.
And you have the idea of recency bias. One battle after another, and Marty Supreme came out way more recently than Sinners. Sinners came out in April. That should have been DOA. Like, it's like, once you come out in the former half of the year, you're fucked. You're not gonna win shit. Same thing happened with Comic.
I will say though, there's been instances in recent years where like movies have bucked that trend. Like, for all the hate you're giving Anora didn't come out like late in the year, if I remember right. That came out in the first half of 2024. So time wasn't
came
on its
out
side,
later than Conclave. I know that.
Yeah, but I remember that wasn't like coming, a movie that came out like in November, basically, right? So, but I mean, also look, here's the thing. Like I said, right now, Sinners has a few categories where it's got to be the easy winner. Like cinematography, I can't think of another movie that would be better than that. Best director, I mean, there's competition, but Ryan Coogler did amazing. I mean, he's got a better chance at like best original screenplay. I mean, that would be the not best adapted, but best original screenplay. I think Ryan Coogler has got to have that. Like that's got to be the one that. So you got that, and you've got, I think, best picture. It can upset, of course, one battle after another. There's a bunch of other ones like his best original score, sound editing, like Tony was saying, technical awards. Train Dreams had great cinematography too, but yeah, I would say regardless of whether it breaks the record for the number of nominations, because which, by the way, the narrative only it comes from the idea that from the moment Sinners came out, people were like, oh, it's like every category. Like almost every category. Like this movie is almost flawless. Like from the way it sounds, to the way it moves, to the way it looks, to the way it talks, to the way it walks, to the way it runs, to the way it kills, to the way it shouts, and the way it screams. It's an amazing film. There's very few other movies, if any others from this past year, that people think are overall excellent the way Sinners is. So I think the nominee record probably gets broken, and then I do feel like the technical awards will be more likely going in its favor. It's just going to be the big ones. Like how many of the acting awards is it going to get? Like Timothée Chalamet has been sweeping it so far, so can he continue to do that? Michael B. Jordan, is he going to be able to overcome that? What seems like a pretty big climb. Best picture so far, Sinners has not seen that, like you said, and they haven't got any love. There's a recency bias thing. We'll find out though. I just wanted to bring this up because I thought this was interesting to talk about. Of course, we'll be proven right or wrong in a couple of weeks' time when the nominees come out. Then, a few weeks after that, the Oscars happen, which we might actually do a live watch along. Since the Oscars will be heading to YouTube in a few years, I figured we bring the live watch along of the Oscars back. We did it like the first year this channel existed, and we haven't done it since. But you guys let us know if you want us to do that. Then maybe we can react live to Sinners. I mean, I don't think we're gonna get another slap, because like the year I did this on the channel was like when we got the slap. You should have seen how confused we were when it was happening live, and then like the international audience reaction, because like the international feed didn't censor out a lot of Will Smith swearing like the domestic feed did. So we were like reacting to it and like, wait, what did you see? What's on Twitter? What actually happened? Was it all planned? Was Will Smith actually angry? Was that for real? Like, it's and then Denzel Washington's like trying to calm everybody down, and so like I'm not saying that's gonna happen this year, but I think it'd be a great
yeah,
because
Will Smith got banned because he's a little prissy bitch.
Well, no. I'm saying like we're not gonna see something of the sort,
No, I know.
but like it's anyway. But yeah, M2G is into the idea, so I think maybe we'll give it a shot. Maybe I can put up a poll about it. You guys let us know if you'd be interested. Of course, you don't need to watch the whole thing. You can just kind of dip in and out, make it your.
I don't know. I
secondary
think we need more Conan O'Brien calling out pedophiles. That was like. I can't believe he actually fucking said that. Like that. That's why Conan O'Brien's fucking goated. That's why we stand Conan O'Brien in this house.
Conan O'Brien is like the best modern equivalent of a Billy Crystal to host the Oscars. I think he should.
Yeah, I can't. He's the only reason why I'm not dreading the Oscar ceremony. It's because he's hosting. Because he did a great job last year. So as long as they don't fucking bring Jimmy Kimmel back again, we're good.
Maybe they will eventually, because given like his profile has risen a little bit in the past year. But anyway, let's move on. We got more movie talk madness to get into, John. These are slightly more like quick hit style news stories. I just figured we'd walk through a few of them. Of course, award season is ongoing. We have just spent the last 15 minutes on the show talking about how Sinners could break records this year. But Avatar Fire and Ash, which now going into its 5th weekend of release as we were talking about it, has also been picking up VFX nominees pretty much across the board, as it should, and it always does, this franchise. And now it's leading the way at the 2026 Visual Effects Society nominations, the VES nominations, and the award show will take place on February 25th, where it usually does the Beverly Hilton in LA, but it led the way with 10 nominations. John, are you surprised by this? Because of course the VES awards, these nominees kind of dig into the different
Literally
aspects
the
of
only
VFX.
things these fucking movies have is the visual effects. Literally the only thing.
Yep.
They are impeccable. They are amazing. They deserve all the awards because that's the only thing these fucking mediocre ass movies have. That's it. They only have a special effects. They don't have a story. They don't got characters. They don't got like anything. But they got visual effects. So I'll give them that.
I mean, How to Train Your Dragon MTG, also the live action one, deserves a lot of respect. Sinner's another one. I think some of the compositing work, they had 2 Michael B. Jordans in the movie, and the way they did it seamlessly is underrated. But yeah, Avatar is going to probably win a lot of awards. Like you said, John, that's like, if nothing else, that's its calling card. It has always been, so wouldn't be surprised that it wins a lot of those nominees that it just got. Let's keep on going.
Yeah, so next one we have is a trailer. Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 trailer reveals Gojira, King Kong, and the mysterious Titan X. So,
John, what are your thoughts on this? I saw the trailer. Of course, this says Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell in it.
I haven't watched the show, so I didn't see it. But like, it's one of those shows I'm like, I should watch that, and then I just never have. So,
here's what I will say: my reaction to the trailer. They're sort of going in a direction where, kind of like the movies, like the MonsterVerse movies, where every movie's trying to outdo the previous one by going bigger, better, faster, whatever, stronger. So, and eventually, I feel like they're gonna go off a cliff where like the Transformers movies got to a point where they're like, okay, you can't make us like watch Transformers 5 for 40 minutes, no matter how much we love the movies. And like, you know, that first Mark Wahlberg one made $1 billion, and then that was the highest they ever made with the Transformers series under Michael Bay. And the next one like dropped off a cliff. It cut in half. A terrible movie too. It was probably the worst of the series anyway. And it had Sir Anthony Hopkins in it. But anyway, the point is, I feel like with these MonsterVerse movies, they've been kind of walking the line, you know, and then they jumped the shark a long time ago. But like the next one, you know, that's going to come out in 2027, the New Empire might have like Space Godzilla, if you go off the reports. Similarly, in the TV world, Legacy of Monsters is of course on Apple TV Plus. Godzilla, King Kong, we have seen those you know, monsters, those kaijus. Now we're gonna see this like mysterious Titan X like water lizard sort of a monster. So again, they're going with this whole like, let's up the odds. Now we got even more Titans. And of course the show is about Monarch, the organization that exists within this universe. So far, season 1 was great. I mean, they got Anna Sawai in it. Like, she's the actress who won a ton of, you know, awards, including the Emmys for Shogun. Her character is not coming back for season 2, but you know, she's a part of the show. The Russells, both father and son, Kurt and Wyatt Russell, are in this. They've got a great cast of characters. I'm pretty sure the continuity all lines up with the movies, and there's like this aspect of like Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell are playing like the same character from different, basically they're playing the same character. One is younger, the one is older, so it's kind of like a cool way that they connect that. The trailer was fun. I haven't seen in the entirety of season 1, but what I have seen was impressive. And you know, Apple TV goes big with their fantasy and sci-fi, and you know, not Lionsgate, was the Legendary that basically run this franchise. They know how to do monsters well, so I'm okay to see what this turns into. The trailer was impressive. I just don't know how many, you know, more things from this world can we see where they're just introducing more and more of those different kaijus, because eventually, you know, you're like, I've seen this before. Like, it's like superhero movies. Like, you know, now superhero movies are having to evolve because people are tired of seeing the same thing again in, you know, like a different pair of spandex suits. You know, like, it's like, okay, we saw Iron Man, we have seen Spider-Man. Do we really need a Blue Beetle? Like, you know, we have seen Godzilla, we have seen King Kong. Do we really need a Titan X? I guess we'll find out. But yeah, I mean, but that applies to the movies and the TV shows. I'd say it's a good trailer, but I'll wait and find out. And I'm also not caught up on the entirety of the season 1, so you know, maybe my perception will change once I finish season 1.
Yeah.
But it was impressive.
I hope to watch the show soon.
Yeah.
Keyword being hope, but
hope.
terms of what we don't need to hope for is Zoe Saldana being fucking, goated because she has now become the highest grossing actor of all time with Avatar Fire and Ash. So,
I mean, look, is this surprising, John? Is it surprising that Zoe Saldana has become the highest grossing highest grossing actor of all time with Avatar Fire and Ash? She's been in all three movies.
she's been in all 3 Avatar movies.
Yeah.
She's been in both, Avengers Infinity War and Endgame and all
Guardians
3
movies.
Guardians movies.
Yep. Not to mention like everything else she's done. Colombiana, there was she was in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie franchise. I forget how many of those she was in.
I think she was just in the 4th one.
Was it just one? Okay. And then she was, of course, in the Star Trek movies, the J.J. Abrams ones. Like, she played Uhura. If you talk about Scarlett Johansson collecting franchises, Zoe Saldana is the original collector of franchises. She's got the gauntlet down. The next thing she's probably going to do is show up in the DCU and Star Wars universe too. Yeah, her agent's probably been making bank for years, much like she has been. So is it really surprising? I don't know if there's a number attached to this, John. If you scroll down, let's see what the number is, because there must be like a box office number that they can quote here. Yeah, they talk about a lot of the ones that we just mentioned. Let's see. The Star Trek trilogy together generated more than $1 billion. Okay, so here we go. So now her films since Avatar, and by the way, this tally is still going up because Avatar Fire and Ash is still going. Yeah, she was before Avatar Fire and Ash, she was sitting in 3rd with $14 billion, right behind, of course, Scarlett Johansson and Samuel L. Jackson, who have both, picked up a lot of that their tallies from being in the MCU. But
so that's around like 15 to 16 billion.
Yeah, I mean, the exact number they talk about here is 15.47, which will go up when Avatar Fire and Ash keeps making money. That's the amount of $15.47 billion. That's like James Cameron as a director money. I don't even think James Cameron as a director has made that much money. Again, not like personally making that much money, his movies, but every movie that Zoe Saldana has been a part of has made altogether $15.47 billion, which now makes her the highest grossing actor of all time. That is insane to think about. But I mean, again, when you look at it, the top 3 all have gone there because they've been part of the MCU. So that's another cap in the feather of the MCU. Another example of another reason why you could look at the MCU as the most successful franchise of all time. Certainly financially, because look at the actors and how much money those movies made, and all of these actors got great paydays out of it, I'm sure. So. Good on you, Zoe, and we hope you keep on doing it. I mean, I love her in that Paramount Plus show she has, Lioness. Like that's a great show. I love her in that show, and I think she's continues to do great work, and hopefully outside of the Avatar franchise, because I mean, she's not going to be in Guardians anymore, as far as we know. Not that Star Trek thing is getting rebooted, so. Yeah, I wonder if what's going to be next on her calendar. But hey, welcome Angelica to the show. We haven't seen you in the chat in a long time, so welcome on and back. Let's keep on rolling, John. We got a few more movie madness. Yep. Oh, there's one more movie madness thing to talk about.
So we have Michelle Williams apparently has joined Damien Chazelle's next movie. So Michelle Williams is the latest star to join Damien Chazelle's new untitled drama starring Cillian Murphy and Daniel Craig. Chazelle will direct and has written the script and will also produce alongside Olivia Hamilton under their Wild Chickens Productions banner, and Paramount Pictures will distribute the film, while unconfirmed insiders say the film will be set in a prison. So we have been waiting for the long, return of Damien Chazelle after his extremely failed movie Babylon. So we will see. He's been kind of on the downturn after Whiplash and La La Land. So, we'll see, because Whiplash was amazing. La La Land was very good. And then he did First Man, which was, for the most part, just kind of generic Oscar bait. And then Babylon was just fucking absolute hot garbage. So, with that,
I had high hopes for that one, but
yeah, it's a shame. But hopefully he can bounce back with this. So, yeah,
No?
Yeah. I mean, look, this is an it's a fantastic cast, and the idea is good, but like you said, he's been hit or miss recently, so we'll see. I think an interesting fun fact, I don't know if Fiona's still watching, but I think Fiona knew Damien Chazelle, or one of Fiona's friends went to school with Damien Chazelle back in the day. So, I mean, I'm not saying she knows him personally or still is in touch with him, but because yeah, where she went to art school, he did too, and then he goes on to become like this famous filmmaker. But anyway, good luck to him getting his directorial career back on track. Certainly, studios and producers still trust him to get it right, and Michelle Williams, Daniel Craig, and Cillian Murphy pick their projects pretty what would you say, what's the best word to describe it, like they're pretty picky about their projects. Like they don't just go out there and sign up for whatever comes their way. Like Cillian Murphy is very judicious with his choices, so is Daniel Craig, and Daniel Craig, I don't know how you say his name properly, and Michelle Williams. So good luck to all three, and Damien Chazelle, and see what they can do with this.
Yeah. Hopefully, well, there's one more. I added one at the last minute because I wanted to talk about it because we didn't talk about it yesterday, and I wanted to talk about it today. But Lee Cronin's The Mummy. There was a teaser for it, and we didn't talk about it yesterday. I was hoping we would talk about it today.
I purposefully left it out because the reviews and reactions have been so bad that I was like, do you really want to talk about it?
I don't care.
All right.
Plus, it's
Go
like,
ahead.
what's the source? What's the source on that? Oh, James Wan walked out of a test screening. Okay, what's the source? Trust me, bro. Fuck out of here. Until you give me a source, you're Jeff Snyder to me. Get the fuck out of my face. All right? Bullshit. Anyway, Lee Cronin's The Mummy, which many thought was going to be called Lee Cronin's The Resurrected, because many said, like, oh, it's going to get renamed, blah, 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 all that shit. And nope, like 2 days after, like a week, maybe 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, I don't know how long ago that they said that The Resurrected was gonna be the changed title. Boom, they come out and say, nope, it's called The Mummy. Shut the fuck up, Brendan Fraser. Get out of here. No, I'm just kidding. We love Brendan Fraser in this house. But this teaser was very creepy. I loved Lee Cronin's previous movie, which was Evil Dead Rise, as it says right there. I thought that was arguably the best Evil Dead movie since the first one, which is saying a lot because I love Evil Dead 2. I love Army of Darkness. So, honestly, Evil Dead Rise understood the franchise the best since the first one. So with that, wanted to talk about this, but it has an ongoing mystery in regards to this, where it's like this, essentially the story is about this journalist that was in Egypt, and his daughter disappears, and then we don't know what happened to her, and then many years later, 8 years later, I believe, she comes back and she's not the same. So that's essentially what this is. Kind of reminiscent of the Clive Barker Mummy movie that never happened, but I'm really excited for this. I think this was a good, creepy teaser. This is probably one of my most anticipated of the year. It could suck, and maybe it could be bad, but I've also heard that this thing is fucking brutal as hell. It's violent, it's disturbing, it's creepy, so that's what I'm really hoping for with this. In terms of all the movies that have come out as of late, in terms of like modernizing original films from like the Universal monsters of the 30s and 40s, Invisible Man was great, Wolfman sucked, and then this hopefully can bring things back on track, because I'm very excited for it, because I think it did a lot well. So I think, as long as as Tony said, as long as it's not the Tom Cruise version, that whole thing, and releasing a trailer that forgets to add the fucking music and audio, but that's okay, whatever. I think, but they are planning, allegedly they're planning to do a Mummy 4 with Brendan Fraser. We don't know if that's actually happening or not, because they said, oh yeah, we maybe kind of maybe have a script, maybe. And that's about it. That's all we have. But this, this is awesome. Can't wait for this. And I thought the trailer was badass as fuck. So, I'm stoked for it. Plus it's got the chick from Moon Knight in it, May Calamaway, which we also fan casted as Wonder Woman a couple months ago.
That gets my
So
interest
yeah.
up. I love her as an like
Yeah,
the
it's
work
got
she's
Jack
done,
Rayner.
very under the radar.
I
Yeah.
like him as an actor, and then a couple
Mhm.
other people that are not coming to me. But yeah, this is definitely a damn good teaser, and the creepy camera and how it clicks and all that. The shutter is very cool. So yeah, love this teaser. I'm super excited for this movie and can't wait for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is gonna be interesting. Hopefully, the critics and audiences love it, because the Mummy franchise could use the love. They've had quite a few
Yeah.
failures in recent times, like we talked about. So, yeah, but it could be a great time for a fan of the Mummy franchise if they get this right, and then Brendan Fraser's potential sequel moves forward, and I don't know, maybe then the next thing we will see Dwayne Johnson is going back to his roots with the Scorpion King remake or something like that. Anyway, we'll see. We got Sergeant Snuggles in the chat. Hello, how are you doing? Thanks for joining in. Lee Cronin embraces practical effects, it seems. Yeah, yes, he does. All right. Well, with that, John, I think we're going to move forward from Movie Talk Madness into the quicker part of news that we usually like to call the quick hits. So let's get into the quick hits, shall we?
Yes. So put that music on.
Hey, there
So
it is.
first things first, apparently, Nick Cage, Justin Long, and Shelley Hennig are starring in action thriller Best Pancakes in the County about deadly standoff in a small town diner. Sold! You didn't even have to say anything else. Sold, baby. Let's
This is
go.
exactly the kind of movie that Nick Cage is built for, and Justin Long would. You know what? This story, I can immediately see what archetype each of these actors will be playing in this movie, and I'm completely okay with that.
Yep. Essentially, yes. But speaking of a good segue, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo apparently is getting a TV series set at Sky, which I believe is a British streaming service.
Yes. Yep.
So
I
honestly,
think
I'm
Comcast
curious.
owns them.
Look, as long as it's not as bad as Girl in the Spider's Web, we should be fine. But I can't imagine it's as good as the Noomi Rapace trilogy and then the David Fincher film that never properly got a sequel. So, hope it's good. I'd watch it, even though I don't have Sky. But I'm sure they could do a deal, and I would be able to get
so
it.
Depending on what it is, because I think Sky has a deal with HBO Max, but then also some Sky stuff would land on Peacock. I mean, I would imagine it's going to be probably more likely HBO Max in the US, but we'll see. Yeah.
But yeah, then Mr. and Mrs. Smith names Anna Wang Mensch as showrunner for season 2. I'm not gonna lie, I thought season 2 of this already fucking came out. Not gonna lie,
So,
I thought
I actually, because I was surprised too, because I read into this story. This is interesting because they're also gonna go down like an anthology route almost. It seems like, because was it
I thought they were coming back.
No. Well, the actors was it Danny Glover? Not Danny.
It was Donald Glover and some Asian chick.
And I'm basically the two actors who led the show in the first season. I think they're still on as producers, but the new season is gonna focus on another, husband-wife duo. But that being said, the showrunner was also, as you can tell, the story here is that Anna is going to be coming in and picking this up. She's already got some finished scripts from the previous showrunner, who just recently, this past September, signed a deal with HBO Max to basically just an overall deal, do work for them.
Damn.
And so she
Figure
left.
Drawing does not give their seal of approval. Goddamn. Okay.
But I mean, that previous showrunner might be doing a Pretty Little was it Pretty Liars? Pretty Little Things, I think. She might be working on a new season for
Big
that
Little
over at
Lies?
HBO.
Is that what you're thinking of?
I think so.
Because they're coming out with another season of that for some reason. Even
so
though
the
last season
showrunner who's
premiered,
going to be
5 years
doing
ago.
that right, the showrunner who's going to be doing that used to be the showrunner for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I mean, and Anna Ouyang mentioned, hopefully we're saying her name correctly, she wrote one of the best episodes of season 2, Rose Hollow, for Severance. And then she's also worked on Beef, and then she's got some good credits on her resume already. So she's taking over for this now, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I heard good things about it. So like, if you guys haven't checked it out, go watch season 1 because season 2 is coming up. Even though it will
there was also
take
a show with
3 years
Scott
to get
Bakula back in the day.
Yeah.
I remember it had nothing to do with what we now know of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but I remember seeing there was like a show pilot or a TV movie back in the day.
Quantum Leap, you think?
No, I'm not talking about fucking Quantum Leap.
No, I'm saying, was it pre-Quantum Leap? Like, was it
No,
before?
I think it was in the 90s. I would have to look it up, but yeah. Anyway, next up, we have this wonderful little moment between your favorite actor, Timothée Chalamet, and your other favorite actor, Leo DiCaprio. So very cute little moment here.
I thought the irony here is like somebody in the comments. The reason why I included this is because somebody in the comments, left this note saying it's kind of like ironic or interesting or funny that how Leonardo DiCaprio has sort of evolved in front of our eyes into like a Jack Nicholson almost. And I'm like, I can kind of see it because it's almost like 20 years ago. This would be like, Jack Nicholson hugging a young Leo. And here you got a young Timothée Chalamet hugging an older Leo. So anyway.
Very nice.
Yeah.
But speaking of Golden Globes, Warner Brothers Discovery sale ribbed at the Golden Globes. Do I hear $5?
This was one of the Nikki Glaser jokes. I just wanted to take this opportunity to kind of like quickly summarize what happened yesterday, with Paramount suing Warner Brothers Discovery. Guys, it's literally about Paramount being cheap and wanting to kind of like what it's gonna take is more money. Warner Brothers basically said it in their response. They were like, okay, we're just gonna put it out there since Paramount doesn't seem to be getting the hint that we want them to raise their offer. Because according to Warner Brothers, and rightfully so, they're gonna need to spend almost $6 billion to get out of the deal from Netflix, not just to pay off Netflix the termination fee that they're contractually obliged to, but also they would have to then, renege on their financing commitments from all the loans that they've been taking on and all that stuff. So altogether, getting out of the Netflix deal would cost Warner Brothers like $6 billion. And basically they're like, Paramount, if you want us to come your way, like pay us like extra money, like to cover the termination costs of the Netflix deal, and then maybe sweeten the pot. Like, give us a reason to pick you. Like, give us an offer that we can't refuse. You're the house that Godfather built. Like, the least you can do is give us an offer we can't refuse. And Paramount is just being very
also, thank you, Tony, for looking that up. There was a 13-episode TV show, late 90s, called Mr.
Great
Smith.
shout out.
It has nothing to do. It was, I think, the only same thing is that it was the title and the fact that it's around spies, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So, but it has nothing to do with.
Yeah. But I mean, look, ultimately, I feel like this makes Paramount look bad for no reason. It's like the Ellisons have money to spare and splash around. They can easily add another $10 billion into this deal without having some life-changing consequences to their wealth. So I don't see why, I just don't understand why they're going this far. Because if anything, they don't have an offer on the table right now, Paramount does, that convinces enough of the shareholders to tender their shares to them anyway. So even if they nominate directors to replace the current board at the next meeting of Warner Brothers Discovery, the shareholders have to vote for that to actually happen. And I don't think there's enough shareholders who are convinced by Paramount's case to do that. So all of this is I feel like Paramount is just buying time. And they're literally fighting this out in the court of public opinion. And ultimately what's going to happen here, the only thing Paramount's going to be able to do to truly win, if they were to even win, is they're going to need to just pay up. Just raise your offer. Get an extra $10 billion or so in there. And I'm sure Warner Brothers will, re-engage with you guys and maybe even decide to renege on the Netflix deal. But then, Netflix could up their offer and then Paramount might ultimately walk away. So we shall see where it goes. But yeah, it's about the money. It's always been about the money. It still is about the money. It will be about the money. It's always about the money. Warner Brothers wants it. Paramount doesn't want to give it.
It's all
Netflix
about
already
the
gave
Benjamins.
and whoever pays up the most money will win Warner Brothers Discovery. So we'll find out.
Anywho, but Matt Damon is apparently stunned by how Sir President Christopher Nolan made The Odyssey, the first Hollywood movie shot entirely with IMAX film cameras. IMAX cameras are really loud. It sounds like a blender, like a Cuisinart in your face when the camera's close to you. So there's never been these dialogue scenes in IMAX. We couldn't have this conversation like with a normal IMAX camera because you wouldn't be able to hear us. They built this giant thing around the IMAX for those dialogue scenes and a system of mirrors so your eye line could be close to the camera and you could talk to the other actor. The amount of work that went into figuring out how to do that because he wanted to do 100% IMAX, and he did it. Don't bet against Nolan. I think that's what we're saying here. Is never bet against Nolan.
No, you can't. I mean, it's Christopher Nolan, James Cameron, like those are, fewer and fewer names like that who have that kind of sway. Sir President Christopher Nolan, when he wants to get some things done.
Yep.
And also, basically, Christopher Nolan being like the single biggest, evangelist for IMAX before it was cool to be a filmmaker making movies for IMAX. Like literally, Christopher Nolan made it cool to shoot movies in IMAX. Like he was shooting movies, shot parts of his movies in IMAX, going all the way back to The Dark Knight. And until then, any IMAX thing you ever saw that was shot with IMAX cameras was just, some nature documentary, which James Cameron was doing, by the way, back in the day. But yeah, Christopher Nolan, man. I mean, I love the idea that they've been able to quiet these cameras enough, but I can imagine, like, these things are huge hunking pieces of machine that are roaring 70mm film around through a camera shutter. John, even if it's quieter, I gotta imagine that's one hell of a presence to have when you're trying to like act out a scene with an acting partner on camera, and then next to you is like this huge thing. It's almost like back in the day if you were like sitting in an office and the computer took up the whole room. Even if it was quiet, it probably still cast a shadow on you. So like figuratively speaking, because obviously in the movies that would, lighting and all that, but yeah, there's the experience must have been stunning, like Matt Damon said, and I will see how stunning it is because I mean the trailer has been impressive so far. So yeah, really excited about this film.
Next up, speaking of Matt Damon, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon pushed Netflix to include performance-based bonuses for the production crew if their new film, The Rip, performs well on the platform. The thoughts?
This is great. I saw this, and I mean, this is coming from a Variety article originally where it's kind of buried down below in another story. But, John, here's the thing. Netflix doesn't pay performance-based bonuses to their actors for the movies that they have on their platform, which is, kind of, it would be the equivalent of if you made a movie that went theatrical, that you get a percentage of the movie's, revenue or like profits, right? Like Tom Cruise got like 10% of Top Gun Maverick, like $100 million payout. Now, of course, that number will vary depending on the actor. We remember famously or infamously, Tony Stark, aka Robert Downey Jr., walked away with like $50 million from the first Avengers movie. Well, when movies go on streaming, especially on Netflix, or at least in this case specifically on Netflix, actors don't get a percentage of, like, if the movie was watched by 1 million people for however many millions of minutes, whatever metric they use, you don't get a performance-based bonus from that like you would, like, in a theatrical release. But Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have their own like artist equity company, and that production company is all about like getting more ownership for the actors in their own work. And as part of that, they managed to basically convince Netflix saying, look, we're gonna do this movie called Rip for you, or The Rip, or whatever it's called, but if it performs well on the platform, we need to have some, some clause in our contract where we get performance-based bonuses. Basically, if the movie does well and you're making more money from it, then we should get a cut of that, the way it would work in a theatrical release. I mean, this is the longer conversation with like the business side of it, and whether it's fair or not, or like who ultimately wins out or not, whatever the case is. But I took it as, if everybody started doing that and all of a sudden like all these like A-listers were like, sorry Netflix, unless you give us these bonuses, maybe we won't go else, we'll take our talents elsewhere, then maybe that will force Netflix to change its way of doing things. Because it's more than about just not putting movies in theaters, it's also about how they pay the people that make movies for Netflix. And I think this is a good move in the right direction. I don't know how it will translate to other movies, but I like that they the Affleck and Damon were able to push for it and get it for the rip. So
nice. But you know, speaking of Batman, Christopher Nolan to Matt Damon to Batman, sure, it works.
Well, Ben
George
Affleck
Clooney,
in there somewhere too.
George Clooney hits back at Quentin Tarantino after he tore into Paul Dano and more. You know, he said this at the Golden Globes with Jake Kelly. He said, by the way, Paul Dano, Owen Wilson, and Matthew Lillard, I would be honored to work with those actors. Honored by people who love actors. People I've known most of my life. Actually, most of them are actors. I have a great affinity for them, and I don't enjoy watching people be cruel. We are living in a time of cruelty. We don't need to be adding to it. So, yeah.
No, it
just
George
goes to
Clooney-
show that, like, even though George Clooney hates his role as Batman, that's a pretty Batman response. That's a pretty Bruce Wayne level response.
Dishing out
Showcasing he is
justice.
truly Bruce Wayne IRL.
He is. I mean, he is. He literally is. The only other thing I was going to mention is Quentin Tarantino and George Clooney had like one of these things where Tarantino threw some, insults Clooney's way directly a few years ago, and then Clooney shot back at him. So they've got a history, and they're not friends. Let's just say that. So they're probably not even on a first name basis. I don't think they keep each other's phone numbers in their contact list. So, yeah, I'm not surprised.
George Clooney
and then,
doesn't text Quentin Tarantino feet pics, so
I don't. Yeah.
But
so I'm not surprised.
but next up, wow, to the shock of no one, Duffer Brothers started filming Stranger Things final episode without a finished script. We don't even fully know what's going on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure people could have figured that out by just watching it, but I could tell that they didn't have a full CGI budget either, since the Linkin Park video from fucking 2000s looks better than this shit.
I mean, okay, so I read this article, and here's my understanding of what happened, right? Apparently and if you've seen this documentary, you know what went down. Basically, they talk about how, like, in the documentary, the Duffer Brothers themselves are saying, look, we know what happened, like, we have the sequence of events laid out, but we didn't get a chance to script everything out. We have started filming. That has happened before in the movies many a times, like, Edge of Tomorrow, the first Iron Man movie. If you believe it or not, the Avengers Doomsday had the same situation. But apparently, one of the PAs or somebody else on the set who was interviewed behind the scenes, and that ended up in this documentary, they were talking about, oh, we're not even sure what's happening next because we don't have a script. Well, the Duffer Brothers knew what was going on. The only thing they hadn't written out the entire script. So I don't know if they were doing like day-to-day writes and they were just writing scenes and then shooting them as they went, like Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise have been doing for the last few Mission movies. But whatever the case is, it's from a PR standpoint, it doesn't make you look good. I'm surprised that they left some of that stuff in there. Also, there was a whole controversy around like ChatGPT and stuff, and maybe they use it. I mean, some of that is really blown up, and the game of telephone, the internet's playing. But let's just say that Netflix could have done a better job at cutting some of that stuff out and anticipating how that might be taken the wrong way or blown out of proportion by the internet, as a lot of things usually are. So, yeah. Anyway.
Anywho.
And yeah, you're right. It didn't look as good as the previous seasons. Like some of that finale stuff was
Mighty Big Wolf. Anyway, Saturday Night Live's social views jumped 53% in 2025. Congrats, I guess. Cool.
Well, I mean, it was an election year. Or a couple of years ago was an election year, and then even last year. I mean, political satire is a big part of it. I mean, SNL as do a lot of other late night shows and programming, they get a lot more attention now on social media than they do on their original first run broadcast like SNL being on a Saturday. So 53% jump in 2025 makes sense. I mean, a lot of people find this stuff on YouTube now. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
Cool. John M. Chu to receive Art Directors Guild Cinematic Imagery Award. Why?
I just wanted to
Anyway,
put this in there for you.
Trevor Noah to host his last Grammy Awards. I didn't know Trevor Noah was still a thing, and I didn't know the Grammys were still a thing. Anyway,
Well, this is going to be his 6th and final time. So.
BTS announces long-awaited 2026 to 27 world tour. Didn't realize BTS was still a thing. And finally, some good fucking food. Godzilla Minus Zero sets November release in theaters. It is going to be coming to the U.S. in November 6th, and I'm so stoked for it. I am here for it. I love both the MonsterVerse and the Toho releases. I think there is room for both, for the more ridiculous side of the MonsterVerse, but then the more character-driven, brilliant side that was given to us with Godzilla Minus One, and now, hopefully, once again with Godzilla Minus Zero. So...
I mean, it's also, I think it's going to be like Godzilla Day when it comes out, right? So that all kind of ties together. But yeah. I am looking forward to it. I wonder like what other crazy VFX
I just can't wait for
teach
Godzilla to go to a wedding and then it be called Godzilla Plus One. That's going to be the next movie.
Yes, you know what? That's underrated. You know, mark it down, Toho. That's your threequel right there. Godzilla Plus One, and then his plus one is like another kaiju. Like,
yeah,
you know,
it's
just
Mothra.
Like,
you know,
Mothra, like, you know, like.
And remember, it is Oscar winning. It won Best Visual Effects at the Oscars, and they built it in a cave with a pile of scraps for $10 million. What Kevin Feige can achieve with 10 $200 million Marvel movies. So. Suck dicks, Kevin.
Built it in a cave with a pile of scraps.
Exactly.
Anyway,
and it's so funny because they were like, oh yeah, we showed this to the Marvel people. It's like, yeah, this is actually how you do visual effects and actually put passion and care into your fucking movies, Marvel. So, you know. Anyway.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's it for Quick Hits, guys. So let's turn off that fucking annoying ass music, and then we will be getting into DCU Daily. But before that, we have to talk about thanking you for watching the news portion of the show, because now we will be getting into DCU Daily. It'll be a mighty fun time. But thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so you know when we go live. And with that, Dan, what are we? What are we, Dan?
Blessed from the beginning, as always.
Yes.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot, right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see.
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you, really, I'm doing sublime. I never wait in a stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all on the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto. Hunka hunka.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Now it's DCU time. Hello. Hope you're in for some good DC hits before we get into Tier List Tuesday for today. But I must ask, Dan, what are you excited for this wonderful DCU Daily today?
Well, we've got a few Superman things we got to talk about. I ran across something interesting. Somebody online was talking about how Superman is, eligible for Best Picture at the Oscars. And I figured we'd talk about it. Does that mean that it actually has a chance at being in what usually is the biggest category and the most important one at the Oscars? They usually can have up to 10 nominees. Every other category gets a maximum of 5. So if there is one place where Superman could potentially get nominated, you would imagine it would be Best Picture. So we'll talk about that. And also, John, I know we've kind of hashed it out before, but I did want to mention and maybe make the case and, get your opinion on the idea of maybe Sebastian Stan is not playing Two-Face in the Batman after all. Maybe he's playing a different character. And I'll go over,
the character he
why.
played in a no-budget TV show 20 years ago.
Well,
don't know about
that's not
that.
the reason why. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. But let's start off like we usually do DCU daily with some DC quick hits. The Parrots, Ducks, Pelicans of DC news. Beware people who are afflicted by bird blindness. But we're talking about Green Lanterns, John.
Yeah,
Walk us through the
so
quick hits.
McFarlane Toys has released their Green Lantern figure, and it looks as ugly as their other figurines. Hot Toys and Sideshow McFarlane is not, but considering these are more along the lines of to play with, then that makes sense that there's not more time or care into them. But it looks okay. Like he's kind of got jowls. He's kind of has a little bit of baby fat in the cheeks there, but his head's looking a little bit small. But it's fine. It's okay. Dan, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but he looks okay to me. Could be worse. Could be better.
Yeah, big boy lantern, like Tony said. There you go. That's all I gotta say.
Sure. And then next up, somebody did this wonderful fan art of Melissa Benoist as Wonder Woman, and even though I cannot see her as Wonder Woman, this is good fan art. Even though it involves the New 52 suit, which I don't like. Not a huge fan of the New 52 suit with the sleeves and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's very good Photoshop. In this day and age, we got to point out the good people who have the time to do Photoshop instead of doing AI, because fuck those people. Anyway, but yeah. And then next up, apparently they have now released Sonic X DC figurines. Honestly, the only implausible one here is Knuckles as Superman. I don't see that at all. Shadow as Batman. That makes sense. Tails as Cyborg also makes sense. But Knuckles as Superman? I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, Sonic as the Flash makes sense. Knuckles, I think they just had one more character left. They're like, all right, make him fucking Superman. But like the rest are good. Like Amy Rose as Wonder Woman, and Silver as Green Lantern. All makes sense, but Knuckles is the only one that's like kind of iffy. But I think this is cool. I think this is fun. I think a friend of mine would like this. He's a big Sonic fan. But
no, I agree. I thought this was like a little, fun collaboration that it's always good to talk about stuff that's not just the movies. I mean, we like talking about DC Comics, and action. There's always room for a good action figure, and yeah, it looks nice. It looks fun.
Yes, very much nice. Love to see it. But then now we move on to DCKO Green Lantern Galactic Slam #1 variant by Juan Ferreira. Where it shows Darkseid and Kyle Rayner, the lantern that everyone forgets, duking it out in sort of like a 8-bit clip art kind of vibe. Very cool. You could kind of see the full image here, which was a little bit cut off, and yeah, cool, nice. And then our boy Dick Tracy Rogues Gallery also posting some fun art as well. You have him breathing from an event horizon. No, yeah, Superman's weak. Yeah, okay. Fucking using his breath to fucking push him and 4 other people away from an event horizon. Yeah, keep telling me how he's fucking weak. And then we have the scene of him lifting the building and him saving the squirrel, and one of the best moments from the movie was Pruitt Taylor Vince's being like, instead of oh, you're the chosen one, Clark, be the chosen one, but also be a farmer, be like, no, we taught you good, now you use what we taught you to move on, and that's who you are as a person. Love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the best moments of the entire movie, and I love this artwork. This account does amazing stuff. We showcases every time we get a chance, and yeah, it's just a great representation of what the movie was all about. And yeah, Superman was a very successful, restart to the new era of DC, and can't wait to see what we got cooking with Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah. But next up, apparently Superman was the most obsessively rewatched movie of Letterboxd in 2025, beating out K-pop Demon Hunters, which is a surprise because everybody's still jerking that goddamn movie off, like, even now. So it's just like, that's crazy. But I mean, Wicked makes sense because Wicked for Good just came out, so like everyone's rewatching the original. Then everybody loved Sinners, and then nobody watched Thunderbolts in the theater, so everybody was rewatching it on streaming. The Hamilton thing, because Hamilton's still a thing, I guess. Rocky Horror Picture Show, that's going to make it in there because of the amount of theater screenings that still has. And then One Battle After Another, people actually like that movie for some reason. I can't explain Hamilton, Pride and Prejudice, and Dead Poets Society, though. Maybe because those got re-releases that past year, but I can't imagine that people would like be seeing that over and over again. But the rest makes sense. I think so.
I mean, this also kind of lends itself to that other piece of news that we did yesterday, where James Gunn was like the most popular director on Letterboxd. I guess it's because people were obsessively rewatching Superman to the tune of being at the top of the list. So it makes sense that James Gunn got there. I mean, one of you guys asked about this. So somebody actually mentioned, is it because everybody was watching Superman over and over again? Well, now we know the answer to that question, and yes, they were. You guys were watching Superman obsessively again and again, and that's how we got James Gunn being the most popular director on Letterboxd in 2025.
Yeah. But yeah, then we have some, for BAFTA consideration, long listed for special visual effects, but, Warner Brothers UK essentially congratulating them for Superman being on the long list in BAFTA's special visual effects category. So good for them.
Yeah. No, it's again, Superman, Avatar, I think is also on there. Obviously, I'm not surprised to see it. But yeah, it will be interesting to see who ends up winning. Will it be Superman? I could see that happening. I could definitely see that being the case. I bet you though, Avatar probably is still the forerunner. Like,
yeah, unfortunately, had to come out the same year as an Avatar movie. So oh well.
Yeah, sucks. But what are you gonna do?
Oh well. But next up, going to the bigger things. I don't know is this still a quick hit? I don't even fucking know anymore. No, it's not a quick hit. Now we're moving on to Superman.
We're moving on from the DC quick hits, folks. Let's talk about some of the other stuff. MTG obsessively rewatched Superman and Sinners. Let's talk about Superman. Speaking of which, well, John, I mentioned at the start of DCU Daily today that I wanted to discuss the idea of, well, obviously, award season is ongoing, and we talked about earlier in the show how Sinners could potentially have a record-breaking year at the Oscars. Well, in other potential Oscar news, or actual Oscar news, it was just days ago, like late last week, that the Academy announced because remember a few weeks ago, I think it was late last year, we talked about they had released over a dozen different shortlists for a number of categories. It did not include some of the big ones, like Best Picture, Best Actor and stuff, Best Director, but they had a lot of the technical categories shortlisted. Well, they just announced last week, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, that not just Superman, but Superman is part of a list of several hundred movies, which is not unusual, that are eligible for Best Picture at the 2026 Oscars. Now, of course, some people took that and ran with it and saying Superman is eligible for nomination for Best Picture at the 2026 Oscars, implying that, well, like, sure, water is wet, like, this is shocking. Like, just because it's eligible doesn't mean it will actually be a movie that's nominated.
Right. It's not even close to being.
I love the meme that says the joke going right over Christopher Reeve Superman's head is like, what is this meant to be funny? Like, I don't see what's. So I went and did some research and I found the actual list. We're not gonna go through every single movie in the list,
right? But it's like they have the account too there. Yeah, it's eligible because why? It was released in 2025. That's literally fucking.
Well, there's more to it than that. They do have a criteria. It's a pretty stringent criteria. I'll summarize it for you. I mean, the criteria includes like some requirements for diversity in terms of the people who are working on the movie, behind this camera, in front of the camera, even the marketing and PR teams that work on promoting the movies. But also, there needs to be a very specific minimum requirement that movies have to meet for how long they play in movie theaters. Of course, there's a reason why Netflix puts some of their movies that are going pretty much straight to Netflix in movie theaters for a certain amount of time, because they want to make them Oscar eligible. But of course, other studios that put movies in theaters proper, a lot of those movies are eligible. Now, that list this year was 201 movies. Now, 317 movies as a whole qualified for all the general categories at the Oscars, but the Oscars have a more stringent set of criteria for the Best Picture field. So of the 317 that are eligible across the board, only 201, and I say use that word lightly, and it's a relative term, only 201 films are eligible for Best Picture at the 2026 Oscars. Like you said, John, that includes movies like The Accountant 2, Zootopia 2, and of course includes one, Superman, from James Gunn. So Superman being one of 201 movies that could potentially win, not win, but right now we're just talking about to be nominated for Best Picture. Now, if you guys remember, or unless you have had your head buried in the sand the last little while, the Oscars used to have 5 option. The limit was 5. Like, that's the amount of nominees they could have, like every other category. Then after there was a bunch of controversy in the late 2000s, people felt like some movies were left out, that they shouldn't have been. And that it just wasn't, the category wasn't representative of like truly the best pictures of the year. They were like, sure, we will increase the number of nominees that there could be possible. Now, they could go from 5 to 10. The thing is, there will be a minimum of 5, and I think this is a misconception. So the Best Picture category could have a minimum of 5 or a maximum of 10 nominees. I don't know if there have ever been any less than 10 since they expanded the category, but basically the assumption people make is, oh yeah, it went from 5 to 10, so there will be 10. No, the idea, there have to be enough movies getting enough votes from the Academy members to qualify to make their way up to 10 total. So basically there could be as few as 5, there could be 6, 7, 8, 9. Any of those number of movies could be the total number of nominees we could get. Any one of those could be Superman, because they're one of the 201. But I'll ask the important question we've all been wondering, John. I have an idea of what you're going to say. And you guys in the chat, and even in the comments down below if you're not watching live, let us know, what are the odds that Superman will get one of those up to 10 nominees for Best Picture at the 2026 Oscars?
I personally think there is probably a 1% chance, but I think that's an absolute certainty.
I knew you were going to go there. I knew you were going to... It's still misunderstood the concept of the line. But you know what? I agree with the number. I think there's a non-zero chance. Whether it's 1%, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Fantastic Four is also on the list of eligible movies. So there you go. 5%, according to Stacy, that's what she's gonna go with.
I think this is like fucking 1 trillion to 1. Like, never, no way is this gonna get fucking nominated ever. Like, I would love for it, but like, come on, that's.
I mean, if you scroll down in this article, they actually
even then,
give
like,
you a
they
list
do
of their
like to include a blockbuster movie, but like, it's more likely that something more prestigious like Avatar or F1 would get nominated, because those are like prestigious blockbusters. Kind of like a Top Gun Maverick was nominated.
Well, I just think like better made movie.
Yeah.
Better. If you scroll down here in this article, they actually kind of provide their list, which I thought was very interesting to look at. So this is Gold Derby's list. There, and again, this is not an official list. If you scroll down here, actually, no, is it? No, if you go up. See all predictions. That's the list. Now this is their prediction. Now these are the odds basically, but like if you look at the top 10 here as what we're going to focus on, because that's the maximum that the category can have. And Gold Derby are predicting this. They're saying that you'll get Marty Supreme, Sinners, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, Frankenstein, Sentimental Value, It Was Just an Accident, Train Dreams, The Secret Agent, and Begonia as your top 10. So Weapons, Wicked for Good, and a number of other movies, including, of course, Superman, Avatar, Fire and Ash, F1, Sirat, Jay Kelly, all will miss out. Now, John, if you look at this top 10, do you think that's a pretty good bet?
I think that's a good bet.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
I mean, so far the award season, in its early stages,
it does have different ones, like
one battle after another all win.
Are saying like all of the like slightly different lists, but it's about the same, like a couple others, and then you have editors, and again, kind of very similar vibe here, where it's essentially like for the most part it's the same. It's the same kind of 10 movies, maybe in different places, but
exactly
still.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like when they nominate them, they don't give you an order of like who got the most votes. They just tell you these are the 10 nominees, and then you find out who wins on the night of the show. So, I don't think Superman's going to be in there. I mean, it's unlikely because we just looked. I mean, look at the list. If you keep scrolling down, I wonder if Superman is even in this prediction list, like, or how far down you have to go to find the odds of Superman. Because, I mean, you're looking at a number of options here, but like even in the top 15, top 20, I don't think there was any Superman. I think that's the best visual
effects. Yeah.
Like you'll have to keep scrolling down because like they have everything in here, like on this page, all the different categories. But just in the best picture alone, I don't think Superman probably even comes in at maybe the top 25, and if it does, it's probably in the back half of that top 25.
It only goes down to 51, and that's
it have a Superman in there? Wow, they put Christie above it. Dang, okay.
They got Nouvelle Vague, they got Die My Love, House of Dynamite, Life of Chuck, Nuremberg.
The voice of Hind Rajab should have been higher, in my opinion. Wake Up Dead
28 years later. 28 years later is number 23. That's damn.
Rental Family's underrated. But yeah, I mean, Superman's not even in their top 50, according to the Gold Derby. But there you go. So yes, Superman is eligible amongst 201 other films. Superman and 200 other films are eligible for the Best Picture category at the Oscars this year. That's from the Academy officially, but it's highly unlikely to get one of those 10 spots. Anywho, with that though, I think we gotta move on to the main event of the show before we get on to talking about James Cameron's movies and Tier List Tuesday. But I wanted to kind of spend some time and talk about the Batman Part 2. Of course, last week the big news was Sebastian Stan is looking to join the Batman Part 2, playing the headlines all said opposite Robert Pattinson, and I feel like that got exaggerated to saying he's gonna be the villain. But let's just for the moment assume that is true, that he's gonna be playing an antagonist in the movie. And I know the prevailing theory is that he's gonna be playing Two-Face, Harvey Dent, Two-Face. We know there's a Harvey Dent in this Gotham City.
Can we trust him?
And we talked about, all the different versions of the character that you wanted to fan cast last week on Friday's Fancast Friday. But, John, this article in Screen Rant, I think, made a good point, and I just wanted to bring this up for you. Because if you scroll down, and I'll tell you where to stop, but they were talking about in this article the idea that Matt Reeves has mentioned before, like what he's doing is basically something that hasn't quite been done before. And that's in and of itself a pretty vague comment. But if you look at the pattern of how Matt Reeves so far has reimagined certain characters, like the Riddler probably being the biggest example in his, version of the universe, the Penguin, another one, where he's taking these Batman villains, which are, usually very campy, very colorful looking in the comics and their past live action iterations. And he's sort of given them this like grounded, more serious, backstories, and then just kind of like basically made these characters like feel like they can exist in the real world. Like the Riddler, basically a serial killer that even now that every time I rewatch this movie, I'm like, that hits a little too close to reality, with all the real crime dramas and stuff and that are out there in the world today, and what we know about serial killers and what they had done in the past 10, 20 years. I mean, Matt Reeves definitely pulled a lot of inspiration in terms of how he characterized the Riddler from what we get in the real world. Then, of course, for the Penguin, we're not getting a Oswald Cobblepot like we did with Danny DeVito back in the 90s. We're getting a much more grounded version of the character where he's a gangster, and like especially now having watched the Penguin, we can relate to him and at the same time see that he's a really, really bad, twisted, sad character. So along that line, John, I wanted to quickly make a couple of points, and then I want to get your take on this. Sebastian Stan playing Two-Face wouldn't really require a whole lot of reinvention, because, like, you think about it, we have gotten a very grounded, gritty, realistic version of Two-Face in the Dark Knight trilogy. The Dark Knight had probably the best iteration, and Eckhart played Harvey Dent. They went through his whole transformation, and he goes from being the Gotham's, White Knight, and ultimately ends up, dying a criminal. And it's the whole, thesis on which the second and third movie in that trilogy are based, is the the downfall of Harvey Dent, essentially, and how it affects the rest of Gotham City. So we have seen that. We've seen it in very much detail. We even saw a version of Harvey Dent in Joker Folie à Deux, which a lot of people forget about, rightfully so. But all I'm trying to say is from Billy D. Williams all the way to, I forget the name of the actor who played, I think he was one of the guys who was in Heated Rivalry. I forget which of the actors it was. But like certainly, Aaron Eckhart, we have seen many iterations of live action Two-Face. We have seen campy versions. We have seen very serious, grounded, realistic versions to just stylized versions. We didn't get one in the DCEU, but why go in that direction? What can Matt Reeves do that's going to be a reinvention, or, as he put it, it's not quite been done that way before. Whereas we had these rumors, supposedly Sebastian Stan had a long time ago wanted to play Mad Hatter. And now, of course, he did play a version of the character, not the DC version of the character, but in Once Upon a Time, which was like a show on ABC back in the day. It was like a fairy tale show. I remember watching it for a few seasons. So he's played a version of Mad Hatter, not the DC one. But Mad Hatter is another character. Hello, May 8th. By the way, Mad Hatter is another character that's, in the comics, like a much more colorful, campy character. But if Matt Reeves is going to follow the pattern of what he's done so far, I mean, we have not seen a grounded, gritty, realistic version of Mad Hatter before.
We haven't seen any Mad Hatter on the big screen.
So I'm just saying, Sebastian Stan, obviously, we know he can play somebody who lives in the gray areas. Like, just go off of what he's been doing as Bucky in the MCU for years now. Like, he went from being the best friend of Cap to being his worst enemy to, being like somewhere in the middle to now firmly being like one of the OGs of the MCU, and he's still around. And from all of his other works, you can tell that he's a great actor who can really pull off pretty much anything you put in his direction. So do you think Mad Hatter, like, just looking at it from that perspective, checks more boxes in terms of being that character that hasn't been done before? Certainly not the way that, we would expect it to be, which is like this campy version of the character in the comics. And then also, like, it kind of goes in line with what Matt Reeves has already been doing with the Riddler, even with the version of the Joker we got, as well as the Penguin. Like, all of these characters that feel much more larger than life in the comics, grounded in the world of Gotham City that he has created. Do you think Sebastian Stan would be playing a Mad Hatter that's more along those lines than maybe a Two-Face, which we have seen Two-Face, and we have seen many iterations of Two-Face. So, yeah, I mean, is Mad Hatter more likely? Are we not giving enough credit to that theory, do you think?
It's just, to me, is Mad Hatter, he has technically been done before. They just called him the Riddler in the Batman Part 1. Because I have seen a lot of people say that the Riddler is not the Riddler in the Batman. It's essentially Mad Hatter, but with the name the Riddler. And that's, kind of what it is. He's essentially, because a lot of people have stated that the Riddler it's just like, he's not someone who wants to be on Batman's level. He doesn't want to be two sides of the same coin that the Batman is. The Riddler wants to be better than Batman because he has a fucking ego he is essentially, I mean, Batman has plenty antitheses of, all the characters. Bane is a big one. But the Riddler is also one, and they kind of made that work in Batman Forever. Unfortunately, they went way too goofy with it because of Jim Carrey, but that still technically got and understood the character more than the Batman did, because the Batman is like essentially this like stuttering autistic fuckwad who wants to like be as good as Gotham's Dark Knight, when that's just not the character. That again, from personality traits to plan to his push on what he wants to be. That's all Mad Hatter. That is essentially Mad Hatter as a character. It's just he's called the Riddler because Matt Reeves wanted to do something different, but like I don't get why he made it, because he's like, I wanted to use puzzles, so Riddler it is. And I don't know. So it just seems a bit, I feel like now you can't do Mad Hatter, at least in this universe, because of how Matt Reeves essentially got the character of the Riddler so wrong that Mad Hatter is almost unusable, because you would essentially be doing the same character again, unless you have to vastly make him so abhorrently different from his original character, like you did with the Riddler, to make that character work. So for me, would Mad Hatter be a lot of fun? Yeah, it would be great. I think Sebastian Stan could do it. You would just have to do something wildly different. And I'm not just saying like, oh, reinvention, gritty modernism. I'm saying you literally have to change the entirety of the character to make it work in this universe, because you essentially borrowed so much of Mad Hatter's character for your Riddler. So that's all I'm saying with that, is just like, would Mad Hatter be good? But yes, but like essentially what like Into the Spider-Verse had to do with Miles Morales, because the MCU Peter Parker borrowed so much from Miles Morales' character in the comics that they were like, okay, well, we just have to reinvent the character from the ground up, and ironically made him better. So, you know, it's entirely, it's possible that he could play a different character, Mad Hatter being the top one, but I think the reason people are saying the top one is because Sebastian Stan technically played the character that the DC villain is based off of. So, you know, I think that's the only reason why people are saying that specific character, when I feel like maybe he could even be Hush, he could be Lincoln March, he can be a number, especially Lincoln March would also make sense, because, you know, it seems like they're going towards Court of Owls kind of vibe. So that could also be the case, but I don't know. I just think Two-Face would be the best one. I think it works, and again, they could totally reinvent that, because a lot of people are saying, oh, the theory is that Gilda Dent is going to be Two-Face, while, you know, he remains just regular Harvey Dent, and either he works with her or tries to help her so that the police don't get to her, kind of like what was being done in the Long Halloween movie. I don't know if it happens in the comic, but I know in the movie they changed a lot of things, the 2-part animated movie. So, you know, yeah, I just think it's just too much complications that I just don't think Mad Hatter would work in this universe the way he is already, unless you completely wipe the slate clean and do something that's essentially not Mad Hatter as a character, like what you did with the Riddler.
Okay, no, I mean that's fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I can't argue with that because I think you're on the money in a lot of ways. But nothing you said, like, all of a sudden makes it impossible that he could be
It's
playing
not
Mad
impossible.
Hatter.
They could. It's just you would have to like change a lot of things to make it work. But it could happen. It could happen. I don't see it happening, but it could happen. You know, unlikely, but it's possible.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out. I just wanted to bring that up because I felt like it deserved probably a little more credit than maybe we were giving it, considering what Matt Reeves has said, and then, you know, his approach to other similar characters who are pretty outlandish in the comics, but he's managed to kind of bring them more down to earth, as it were. But yeah, you guys let us know in the comments. What do you guys think? Will Sebastian Stan be playing Mad Hatter, or will he, you know, is more likely to play Two-Face, which is the prevailing theory right now? But with that, guys, I think we are all wrapped up here on DCU Daily for the day. And, you know, of course, if you've been watching live, thank you. Hit the like button while you're still here. Hit subscribe if you're new. We're here Monday, Tuesday, and Fridays. And then, you know, later in the year, we'll be back to our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, basically, you know, every weekday. But we're not done yet, John, because while DCU Daily is
Ride's not over yet.
Ride's not over yet. We got Tier List Tuesday coming up next. James Cameron movies is what you guys voted for. Give us like, you know, 10-15 minutes so that we can go refresh our drinks and use the restroom, rest our voices for a few. You guys, you know, do the same, you know, and then we'll catch up with you guys on the Tier List Tuesday stream. Of course, we will put up the poll for you guys to vote on as well. We'll go over the tier list results from last week, and then we'll see where we land on what is, I'm sure, going to be an exciting conversation. James Cameron movies, the ones he's directed, not what he's. So we're not going to count like Alita: Battle Angel because he produced it, or any of the Terminator
or like
movies
something he's
direct.
written, like Terminator Dark
Right.
Fate or something like that. It's essentially
Yeah.
just the
It's
stuff
just
he's directed.
Movies he's directed. So like obviously all the Avatar movies, you know, the Alien movie he directed, the Terminator movie he directed. So yeah, and then beyond that, of course, True Lies and everything in between. So we'll talk about that and so much more. We'll see you guys there. Thank you again for tuning in. As always, hit the like button, and if you're enjoying the content, share the video with others. That helps us out. We're growing the channel, and we'd love to see new people in the chat every day. Hit the notification bell so you know when we are live, like we will be in a few minutes again with Tier List Tuesday. John, is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Remember, James Cameron is one of the many goats. Cool kids, go subscribe. We do stuff not every Saturday, but most Saturdays. Anything we're interested in. So, and also I just uploaded a new video a couple days ago. So go follow me on Geek Informant. I did something about a horror icon that never was never brought to the light of day. So go enjoy that, maybe, or don't. I don't care.
And on that note, we'll see you guys next time on DCU Daily. We'll be back on DCU Daily on Friday, but then of course we'll be live on Tier List Tuesday shortly. So we'll see you there and join us, and we'll talk about James Cameron movies. Until then, victory is mine. Yeah.
Fight for
Less
justice.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts. Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you, really, I'm doing sublime. I never wait in a stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you wanna shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all on the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto. Hunka hunka!
Also, fuck Jeff Snyder and fuck Tom King.